The first thing Aegon Targaryen tasted was iron. Not the iron of blood, not yet, but the iron that lived in stone. An ancient tang, sharp as a sword edge and older than any sword. It sat on his tongue as if he had bitten a coin. Breath came after, hard and reluctant, scraping his throat like sand. The mountain's breath, Dragonstone's breath. He opened his eyes into darkness streaked with ember light. Smoke writhed through the cavern in slow coils, and for a heartbeat he thought it was the shadow of Balerion, the black dread, settling his wings upon the world. He turned his head, expecting the great bulk, the smell of char and hot leather, the patient rumble that had once lived beneath his feet like a second thunder. There was only rock. The ceiling was low and jagged, teeth of black stone dripping condensation. Far above, he heard the sea throwing itself against cliffs, a relentless hammering. The air was wet and warm at once, salted and sulphurous. Aegon pushed a hand to the ground. The stone beneath his palm was not smooth like worked dragon-forged walls. It was raw, broken, split by some ancient violence and made glassy by heat. Obsidian, dragonglass, they had called it in the tongue of Westeros, as if naming made it tame. His fingers flexed. His skin was there. His bones answered. His heart, impossible, thudded once, then again, then found a rhythm as if it had never stopped. He drew in a deeper breath and coughed. The sound was loud in the cavern, a human sound, fragile and ridiculous. He spat onto stone and saw a string of dark liquid, and for a moment he stared at it as if it were an omen. A shadow moved beyond the fire. A woman stepped into the ember's reach, red cloth whispering against her legs. She was not young, not by the map of lines on her face when the light caught it, yet her posture held a strange straightness, as if age was something she wore on purpose. Her hair was the color of old copper, coiled and pinned. Around her throat, a ruby the size of a dove's egg drank the firelight and returned it in a faint, pulsing glow. Her eyes were on him with the fixed intensity of a priest at a sacrifice. "Aegon," she said. Her voice was low, rasped by smoke and prayer. She spoke his name like an invocation. He sat up slowly. His muscles ached as if he had ridden hard for days. His skin prickled with cold sweat. He glanced down at himself. No armor, no tunic. He wore only a thin, dark shift, clinging to his chest. It felt alien, not the weight of mail, not the familiar bite of leather straps and buckles. He lifted his hands again, turned them palm up. They were scarred, faintly old marks as if remembered rather than made. He looked at the woman again. "Who are you?" His voice came out rough, but it was his. The accent, too, the old Valyrian edge that had softened in Westeros but never vanished. He expected her to answer in the tongue of Dragonstone, the old High Valyrian he had spoken with Visenya and Rhaenys. She did not. "My name is Melisandre," she said, and bowed her head just enough to show reverence, not submission. "Servant of R'hllor, the Lord of Light." He did not know that name. The gods of Valyria had been many, and he had burned septs for the seven only when defiance required it, not because he believed in his own flame. "Why am I here?" Melisandre's smile was small, almost tender, and wholly unsettling. "Because the night is long," she said, "and the world is full of shadows. Because a king's death is not always the end of a king. Because fire remembers." Aegon's gaze moved past her. The pit of fire was not a hearth. It was a crude altar made of piled stones and blackened bones. The cavern floor around it was marked with chalk lines and darker stains. He recognized none of the symbols, but he recognized ritual. He had seen priests cut throats to feed their gods. He had seen pyres. He had seen prophecy sold like wine. He tried to stand. His legs shook, then steadied. The stone was cold beneath his bare feet despite the heat in the air. He lifted his chin. "Where is my dragon?" Melisandre blinked, as if the question pained her. "Dead," she said simply. The word struck him like a mailed fist. "No." "Dead?" she repeated, and the ruby at her throat gleamed brighter, or perhaps the fire surged. All of them as far as the world knew, until she stopped. Her eyes flicked to his face, measuring. Until Daenerys Targaryen hatched 3 from stone. The name landed in him with a strange echo. Targaryen, his name worn by another mouth. Daenerys, he repeated, tasting it. Not Valyrian old, not common Westerosi. A later shaping. My blood. Melisandre's gaze did not waver. Your line, she said. Your house. The dragon lords who became kings, and then fell. Aegon's hands curled into fists. He felt absurdly naked. Not of cloth, though that too, but of certainty. The world had always been something he could take in his hands and bend. Even death, it seemed, had been only a delay, a door he did not remember opening. How long? He said, and heard a tremor of anger in it. Have I been dead? Melisandre's breath hissed between her teeth. Near 300 years. His vision narrowed. For a moment the cavern walls seemed to lean inward. 300 years. 300 harvests, 300 winters, 300 summers of men being born, loving, killing, dying, while he lay as ash or bone or nothing. He had expected, if he had expected anything, to wake to Visenya's stern face, to Rhaenys' laughter, to a dragon's heat. He woke to a stranger and a god with a name like a cough. 300, he said, as if repeating could make it less. Then my sisters. Long gone, Melisandre said softly. He swallowed. In his mind he saw Visenya standing at his shoulder, hand resting on dark sister's pommel, eyes like cold amethysts. He saw Rhaenys riding mare axes above the green fields of the Reach, hair streaming, smiling down at the world as if it had been made for her pleasure. Gone. The word was a grave with no stone. He looked away, past Melisandre, into the dark. Why? He demanded. Why me? Why now? Melisandre stepped closer. Firelight painted her cheeks with gold. Her hands were bare, stained faintly with soot. She held them out, palms up, as if offering him something invisible. I sought a king, she said. A prince promised. The one who would stand against the darkness. I was wrong. I have been wrong before. Yet the flames showed me a dragon, crowned not with gold but with iron, and a shadow of a throne that cuts. They showed me the Conqueror's eyes opening. She sounded frightened when she said it, as if her faith had teeth and those teeth had turned upon her. Aegon's laugh was a harsh bark. A prince promised. He spat the words. Is that what you call kings now? Promised? I took my crown with fire and blood. Melisandre flinched, but she did not retreat. And what did you make of it? She asked, and there was steel under the smoke now. A realm united, yes. Also a throne of blades, and a hunger for power that ate your children's children. The fire you brought did not only forge. It burned. Aegon stepped forward until he was within arm's length of her. He could see tiny flecks of ash caught in her lashes. Careful, he said quietly. I did not return to be judged by a priestess. Her chin rose. No, she said. You returned to judge your descendants. That is what the flames said. That is why I am here. The words landed like a key turning in a lock he had not known existed. He felt, then, something beneath his ribs, not his heart's beat but something colder, heavier, like the weight of a crown. Judge. He had judged kings before by defeating them. He had judged lords by burning their halls or taking their oaths. He had judged rebels by making examples. Yet this was different. This was blood judging blood. My descendants, he said, and the anger in him found a new shape. Tell me. Melisandre's gaze slid away for the first time. For a moment she looked older, weary. They were dragons, she said. Some were wise. Some were cruel. Some were broken by fear. They fought each other. They married each other. They burned each other. The dragons died. The realm bled. A usurper took the throne, Robert Baratheon. Your house was cast down. Only 2 survived in exile, a brother and a sister. Aegon's mind moved like a war council. Names, houses, alliances. Baratheon, he knew that one. Orys Baratheon had been his friend, his brother in all but name. He had raised Orys high, given him Storm's End, the Durrandon seat by right of conquest. Baratheon blood was Targaryen adjacent, a branch from his own trunk. That branch had become an axe. "Two," he said. "Who?" "Viserys Targaryen," Melisandre said. "And Daenerys Targaryen." Aegon felt a flash of bitterness at the name Viserys, too close to Viserys. "Viserys," he repeated. "And Daenerys, where is he?" "Dead," she said again. She said T as if death were a common coin. "Killed by a horse lord across the narrow sea." "And she?" he demanded. Melisandre's eyes brightened. Fear and awe twined there like snakes. "Alive," she said. "A queen with dragons." Aegon stood very still. The cavern seemed to hush. He could hear the fire crackle. He could hear the sea. He could hear his own breathing steadier now. A queen with dragons. If true, it meant his line had not ended in ash. It meant the world had not entirely forgotten fire. It meant danger and possibility in equal measure. "Where is she?" he asked. "Far," Melisandre said. "Across the sea in lands of heat and slavery. Yet she will come. She has already begun to turn her eyes toward Westeros. Toward the throne." Aegon's jaw tightened. "My throne." Melisandre's expression sharpened. "Your throne is a chair of swords," she said. "And it has cut every man and woman who sat upon it. Do you still want it?" Aegon's answer rose in him, immediate and instinctive. "Yes." A crown was not a thing you ceased wanting because time passed. Power did not age into irrelevance. But another thought followed, slower, heavier. 300 years. A throne that had outlived dragons. A house that had fallen. He looked at the fire. It burned, heedless, consuming what it was fed. He had fed it men and castles and kings. "I want," he said at last, each word measured, "to see what became of what I made." Melisandre nodded once, as if she had expected nothing else. "Then you must leave this place," she said. "Dragonstone is empty now. A shell. The world has moved on." Aegon glanced around the cavern, the chalk lines, the bones. "Empty?" he echoed, and felt the insult of it. Dragonstone had been the first foothold, the seat from which he had looked out over Westeros and decided to take it. To hear it called empty was like hearing one's own skull described as hollow. He took a step toward the cavern mouth, where a narrow passage led upward. The air grew cooler with each step, the heat of the volcanic heart fading behind him. Melisandre followed. "There are those," she said, "who would kill you if they knew. Those who fear what you are." He snorted. "Let them fear," he said. "Fear is a tool. I invented its use." Melisandre's laugh was soft and not amused. "Yes," she murmured. "That is what terrifies me." They climbed. The passage twisted through stone that looked half-melted, shaped like dragon's ribs, like claws. Dragonstone's architecture had always carried Valyria's memory. Curves and fangs and a sense that the rock itself had been persuaded to become a castle by fire's will. When they emerged onto a narrow ledge, the night wind struck Aegon like a slap. He sucked in a breath and tasted salt and cold. The sea spread below, black and restless, dotted with white foam where waves broke against jagged rocks. Above, the sky was heavy with cloud, stars hidden. He looked up anyway, searching for the familiar vastness of wings. Nothing.
Agunza.
NDS gripped the stone parapet. He felt the castle beneath him, ancient and stubborn. It was his, and yet it was not. Everything was his, and yet nothing was. "Show me," he said to Melisandre, voice low. "Show me this world. Show me what my blood has done." Melisandre's ruby pulsed once, and in its red glow her face looked carved from candle wax. "I will," she said. "But you must understand, Aegon Targaryen. The world does not want your judgment." Aegon stared out into the dark sea. "The world," he said, "never wanted my rule either, and yet it had taken it. He had made it. He had welded kingdoms together like heated metal, hammered until they could not separate without breaking. Now he had returned to find the weld cracked. In the distance, a bell rang somewhere within the castle, an old iron bell that had once signaled a dragon's landing. The sound was lonely, swallowed quickly by the wind. Aegon turned from the sea. His eyes were hard. "Then we begin," he said. Dragonstone's silence was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of a throat cut and left to drain. Aegon moved through corridors that should have been crowded with guards and servants and petitioners. He passed doorways that should have held armories, stores, stables. Instead, there were empty racks, dust, the faint smell of mildew where rain had found its way through cracked shutters. The castle still held the shape of power, but the flesh was gone. Melisandre walked ahead with a torch, her red robe trailing like a tongue of flame against black stone. The torch's light made the carved dragons along the walls writhe as if alive. Aegon remembered these halls filled with the voices of his household. Valyrian spoken softly, commands snapped, laughter when Rhaenys was pleased. He remembered the weight of a crown on his brow as he stood before his sisters at the painted table, the map of Westeros carved and colored, and decided where next the fire would fall. Now the painted table sat in a cavernous chamber like an altar abandoned by its god. The map's painted kingdoms had dulled. Dust lay thick enough to write names in it. The carved coastline remained, precise and mocking. Aegon ran his fingertips across the neck, the riverlands, the reach. The shape of the continent was the same. Men had not moved the land. Everything else could be changed, but rock endured. He remembered pressing his palm against this very spot and telling Visenya they would fly to Harrenhal next. He remembered Rhaenys leaning over the Stormlands, tracing the jagged coast with a nail and laughing that it looked like a dragon's grin. Aegon's throat tightened. He pushed down the feeling with practiced ruthlessness. Grief was a luxury for men without work. "What happened here?" he asked, not looking up. His voice echoed in the empty chamber. Melisandre set the torch into an iron sconce. Its light flared, casting red-orange across the painted land. "Stannis Baratheon held Dragonstone," she said. "He called himself king. He left to fight for his claim and died." Aegon turned sharply. "Baratheon again." "A Baratheon called himself king," he said, and the contempt in him was immediate. "On Dragonstone." Melisandre's gaze met his. "Many have called themselves king," she said. "Your realm has been torn by them. The War of the Five Kings. The North, the Iron Islands, the Reach, Dorne. Every piece of your weld tried to tear itself away." Aegon's lips thinned. "And the Targaryens," he said. "Gone. Gone from the throne," Melisandre corrected. "Not from the world." Aegon moved around the table. He stopped at King's Landing, marked in paint near the mouth of the Blackwater. The city had not existed when he came. He had built it from mud and ambition and the meeting of three roads. He had made it the heart of a new realm. Now it had grown fat, rotten perhaps, but still beating. He looked at the map's painted rivers. "If a Baratheon sat my throne," he said, "then my blood fail it to hold what it took." Melisandre watched him with something like caution. "Your blood did hold it," she said, "for many generations, long enough to become cursed by its own stories." "Stories," Aegon repeated, as if the word were foreign. Melisandre's smile was brief. "Men do not obey only swords," she said. "They obey what they believe. They obey songs, prophecies, fears. The Targaryens were dragons. Then the dragons died, and the fear that kept the realm quiet is gone, replaced by constant, grinding conflict." Aegon's hand tightened on the table's edge. "Then my mistake," he said, "was allowing the realm to forget fear." Melisandre's ruby glimmered. "Fear is not the only thing that binds," she said. "Love binds. Loyalty. The idea of justice." Aegon looked at her with frank disbelief. "Love," he said. He thought of the lords he had burned. Love had not stopped them. Fear had. Justice is the word men use when they want their vengeance to sound holy. Melisandre did not look away. And yet, she said, you speak now of judgment. Aegon felt irritation flare. He walked away from the painted table toward a narrow window cut into thick stone. Outside, the sea was gray under a bruised sky. A slice of pale sunlight tried to break through cloud, weak as a sickly banner. He spoke without turning. I did not ask to return, he said. I have been dragged from death by your god's whim. If I am to exist again, then I will use existence. I will not be a relic. I will not be a puppet. Melisandre's voice came softer now. The Lord of Light does not. Spare me, Aegon snapped. His temper had always been less volcanic than Visenya's, less sudden than Rhaenys, but it was there. Your god did not conquer Westeros. I did. Your god did not forge a throne. I did. If your god thinks he can order me like a sellsword, he will learn what men learn when they mistake dragons for tools. Silence stretched. The torch popped. Outside, a gull cried, harsh and lonely. Melisandre spoke at last. Then you must clothe yourself, she said, and there was a hint of dry amusement. Unless you intend to judge the world barefoot and in rags. Aegon glanced down at the thin shift. He felt suddenly aware of his body, of how human it was. No crown, no armor, no dragon, just skin and bone and the weight of memory. What of my weapons? He asked. Black fire. Melisandre hesitated, and in that hesitation Aegon heard bad news before it was spoken. Lost, she said, or stolen. The sword passed from king to king, then vanished. Many treasures of your house vanished. Some were sold. Some were taken in war. Some, her mouth tightened, some were melted. Your descendants were not always wise. Aegon's jaw clenched. Blackfire had been more than steel. It had been a symbol, the Valyrian blade of kings, a piece of the old world he had brought into the new. To hear it had been lost was like hearing his own name had been mispronounced for generations. He turned away from the win. Doubt. Then we find me a sword, he said. We find me clothes. We find me information. Melisandre nodded. There are fishermen, she said. A few men who remained when Stannis Baratheon left. They hide in the village below the castle. They will trade. Trade, Aegon said, amused and offended. He had once taken what he needed. Now he would bargain like a merchant. Yet perhaps there was a lesson already. The world did not know him. The world did not fear him. He was a man with no dragon, no army, no crown. He followed Melisandre down worn stairs into lower halls. The castle's emptiness made each footstep sound like a challenge. They passed a chamber where dragon skulls had once hung. No, that had been the Red Keep. Dragonstone had held other trophies. Banners taken from stormlords, crowns of defeated kings. Those too were gone. Thieves and time had stripped the bones clean. They emerged into the courtyard. Wind tore at Melisandre's robe. The sky had lightened to a pewter wash, the sun a pale smear. The sea's roar was constant. Aegon looked out over the battlements. He could see the village clustered at the cliff's base, a handful of thatched roofs, smoke curling from chimneys. The air smelled of fish and wet rope. A man stood near the gatehouse, spear in hand. He wore a patched cloak and an old helm that sat crooked. When he saw Melisandre, he stiffened. When he saw Aegon beside her, his eyes widened. Melisandre called out in the common tongue. Cresson, she said. The man blinked. My name ain't Cresson, he said warily. Cresson were the maester. Gods rest him. He stopped, looking between them. Who's this? Melisandre approached. A traveler, she said. A man who needs passage. The guard's gaze lingered on Aegon's hair, too pale to be common. Passage where? King's Landing, Aegon said, stepping forward. He forced his voice into the common tongue, smoothing the Valyrian edges. I will pay, the guard snorted. Pay with what? He asked, and then his eyes dropped to Aegon's bare feet. You look like you came out of the sea. Aegon's mouth twitched. "I did," he said, and let the man decide whether it was jest. Melisandre's hand moved to the ruby at her throat. The gesture was small, but Aegon saw the guard flinch as if he had been burned. Fear. Good. Some tools still worked. "There is coin," Melisandre said. "There are things to trade." The guard hesitated, then spat to the side. "There's a boat in the village," he said. "Fishermen go into Driftmark, sometimes to Blackwater if the winds are kind. But King's Landing," he shook his head. "That's war water now. Ships get seized. Men get pressed. You might get your throat cut for your boots." Aegon lifted an eyebrow. "Then I will go without boots," he said. The guard looked at him a long moment, then glanced at Melisandre as if seeking permission to disbelieve. He saw something in her face and decided he did not want to test it. "Fine," he muttered. "Talk to Harl. He's go. Tee the boat." They walked down the steep path to the village. The rocks were slick. Aegon's feet grew numb from cold stone. He did not complain. He had marched through snow, through mud, through blood. He had slept on hard ground when conquest demanded it. Bare feet were a petty discomfort. Villagers watched them from doorways. Women with rough hands and wary eyes. Children with snotty noses. Men with nets draped over their shoulders. They looked at Melisandre with fear and resentment. They looked at Aegon with curiosity, then suspicion. Silver hair drew attention. Aegon tucked it under a hood Melisandre had procured. A plain brown cloak that smelled of fish and smoke. They found Harl by the shore, mending a net. He was thick-armed, weathered, with a beard gone gray in streaks. He looked up as they approached, eyes narrowing at Melisandre, then widening slightly at Aegon. "I ain't talking no red witch," he said at once. "I am not asking you to," Melisandre replied calmly. "Only him." Harl's gaze slid over Aegon. "He's a fancy one," he said, "even in a beggar's cloak. Where'd you find him, witch?" "On Dragonstone," Aegon said, and kept his tone neutral. "I need passage to King's Landing." Harl barked a laugh. "Everyone needs passage," he said. "Everyone wants to go where the gold is. But there ain't no gold in King's Landing now. Just rats and Lannisters." "Lannisters," Aegon said, and held the name up in his mind like a torch. He had heard it in his time. A proud house of the West, rich in gold. They had knelt to him. To hear their name spoken like a curse told him much. Harl spat into the surf. "They sit the throne," he said. "Or their boy does. Or his mother. Gods know who sits what. All I know is they take what they want." Aegon's eyes sharpened. "A boy," he said. "A king." Harl shrugged. "Tommen Baratheon," he said. "Though some say he's more lion than stag. Don't matter. He's a soft little thing. It's the queen that rules. Cersei Lannister. She's got eyes like knives, they say." Aegon absorbed the names. Tommen Baratheon. A Baratheon again, but with Lannister blood. The usurpers' line continued, mixed with another. A throne held by a child and his mother. He felt contempt and interest. Weakness was an invitation. "And the dragons?" Aegon asked, voice casual. Harl snorted. "Dragons?" he said, as if Aegon had asked about mermaids. "All dead. Been dead for ages." Melisandre's gaze flicked to Aegon. She said nothing. The fishermen did not know of Daenerys, or did not believe. The world dismissed dragons until they burned. "I will pay you," Aegon said, and reached into the cloak. Melisandre had given him a small pouch of coin, silver stags, copper stars. He poured a handful into his palm and held it out. Harl's eyes gleamed. He scooped the coin quickly, as if afraid it might vanish. "Fine," he said. "Fine. We leave at dusk. Tide'll be right, if the winds don't turn nasty." Aegon nodded. "At dusk," he said. Melisandre stepped closer. To him when Harl turned away. "When you reach King's Landing," she said quietly, "you must be careful. They killed your last king. They will kill you too if they suspect." Aegon's mouth curled. "Let them try," he murmured. Melisandre's hand touched his sleeve, a surprisingly human gesture. "You do not have dragons," she whispered. "Not yet, not yet." The words warmed and chilled him at once. He looked out over the sea. Somewhere beyond that gray horizon, a girl with his blood commanded living fire. Somewhere in the world, his house's story still breathed. He would find it, he would see it, and then he would decide whether it deserved to continue. When dusk came, the sky turned the color of old bruises. The fisherman's boat was small, a sturdy thing built for short runs and rough water. Aegon climbed aboard without ceremony. The planks creaked under him. The smell of tar and fish oil rose sharp. Melisandre stood on the shore, her red robe a smear of color against stone. Wind whipped her hair loose. For a moment, she looked like a flame clinging stubbornly to a world of wet gray. "You will return," she said, not as a hope but as a certainty. Aegon looked back at Dragonstone's black silhouette, the castle carved like a dragon's spine against the darkening sky. "Perhaps," he said. Harl shoved off. The boat rocked as it found deeper water. Oars dipped, pulled, dipped again. Dragonstone began to recede, the castle shrinking, the village lights becoming small, trembling points. Aegon stood at the stern until the island was a shadow, until the only thing ahead was the long reach of sea and the unseen shape of the world he had once conquered. He had been a king. He had been a legend. Now he was a man on a fisherman's boat, chasing ghosts. Yet beneath that humiliation, something else burned. Quiet, cold, relentless. Purpose. The sea was not the same as it had been. Aegon had crossed waters in his time, on war galleys, on swift ships with banners snapping, with dragon shadows overhead that made even waves seem to bow. He had watched fleets scatter like frightened birds when Balerions' roar rolled over them. The sea had been a road, dangerous but obedient when commanded. Now, on a small fisherman's boat, the sea was a beast that did not know his name. The first hour out, the water heaved under them, lifting and dropping the boat with a steady cruelty. Salt spray stung his eyes. Wind shoved at his cloak as if trying to peel it from him. Harl rode with grim patience, his breath puffing white in the cold air. Aegon kept his balance without effort. His body remembered the saddle, the deck, the way to ride motion. He watched the horizon. "Keep that hood up," Harl muttered after a while. "Silver hair gets attention." Aegon did not answer. He kept his gaze forward, scanning the water for ships. He saw them before Harl did. Dark shapes far off, sails like torn wings against the low cloud. Warships, too large for fishermen, too purposeful in their movement. They cut the water with the surety of men who believed the sea belonged to them. Harl swore softly. "Royal ships," he said. "Or pirates. Either way bad." Aegon's eyes narrowed. "Can they see us?" Harl spat into the water. "If they care to," he said. "But we're small. Might pass for nothing. Might." Aegon's hand drifted to the plain iron dagger tucked at his belt. It was not Blackfire. It was not even a knight's sword. It was a crude tool, meant for cutting nets or throats in alleyways. He felt the insult of it again, but he did not let it show. "Tell me of this war," he said. "You mentioned 5 kings." Harl's paused, then dipped again. "You really are a stranger," he said. "Or you've been living under a rock." "In a sense," Aegon said dryly. Harl grunted. "It started with Robert Baratheon's death," he said. "He was king after the dragons fell. Big bastard. Drank and fought and whored. When he died, his brothers fought, and the Starks rose in the north, and the Greyjoys in the islands, and Renly." He shrugged. "Too many names. Too many crowns. All men wantin' what ain't theirs." Aegon's mouth tightened. "And who sits the throne now?" Harl snorted. "Like I said, Tommen Baratheon." "Or his mother," he said, as if repeating the name gave it no more weight. "The Lannisters have the gold, the soldiers. The Lions always had gold." Aegon watched the warships on the horizon. He imagined banners, lions, stags, wolves. He remembered when those houses had bent the knee to him, when their ancestors had sworn oaths with fear in their eyes and pride in their backs. Those oaths had been inherited like land, like swords. Now they were broken like old bones. And the North? Aegon asked. You mentioned Starks. Harl's face tightened. North is blood, he said. Stark boy got crowned. Then he got killed at a wedding, Iwaise. Then another Stark girl got taken. Then gods, I don't know. The North always does its own thing. Cold folk. Wolves. Aegon listened. He filed away each fragment like a commander mapping terrain from scouts' reports. Rumor was unreliable, but patterns could be seen. He had thought, in his own time, that he had ended the age of petty kings. He had killed them or made them kneel. Yet here they were again, sprouting like weeds in a neglected field. Aegon leaned closer to the boat's rail, peering at the water. Foam streaked past. The air smelled of brine and wet wood. He remembered flying over these waters, the wind warmer then, the world below small. He remembered laughing with Rhaenys as they raced their dragons along the coast, the sea flashing like hammered steel beneath them. Now the sea was a gray sheet under a gray sky, and his laughter felt like something that had belonged to another man. You ever seen a dragon? He asked Harl suddenly. Harl laughed. Rough. Only in carvings, he said. Only in songs. My granda used to tell tales of them, but grandas tell all sorts of tales. Dragons don't come back. Aegon's eyes stayed on the horizon. They do, he murmured, too softly for Harl to catch. Hours passed. The boat crept forward, small and stubborn. The warships on the horizon shifted, moved away, or perhaps they moved and the boat moved and the distance stayed the same. Aegon could not tell. The sea played tricks with scale. As the day waned, the clouds lifted slightly, and a pale strip of blue appeared near the horizon. Sunlight fell on the water in a cold sheen. Far ahead, a darker smear rose from the sea land, the coast near King's Landing. The smell changed subtly. Less open sea, more river mud. Harl's shoulders hunched. Blackwater Bay, he muttered. You'll smell the city soon. Aegon tasted the air. There was a faint taint, a sweetness gone sour. Smoke, old and new. Human waste. Tanners. Cooking fires. The stink of too many bodies packed together. He remembered when King's Landing had been new. He had watched huts become streets, streets become walls. He had watched the city grow as if it were a living thing feeding on power. He had chosen this spot because it was central, because it was where river and sea met, because it could be defended. He had not chosen it because it was beautiful. It had not been. It had been practical. Now, 300 years later, it would be enormous. The boat passed other vessels, small cogs, barges, some with armed men aboard. Aegon kept his hood low. He watched banners fluttering from mastheads. A lion, a stag. Once he saw a strip of cloth with a golden rose. His stomach tightened. As they neared the harbor, the city rose from the water like a crowded cliff of stone and wood. The walls were higher now, patched and thick. Towers bristled. The Red Keep sat above it all, a great hulk of red stone on the hill, like a wound that had scabbed. Aegon stared. He had watched the Red Keep be built. He had laid the first stones. He had argued with masons, demanded thicker walls, demanded hidden passages, demanded strength. He had wanted a fortress that would endure. It had endured. It looked, from the bay, like it might outlast the world. The sight should have pleased him. It did in a cold way. But there was something else too. An unease, like seeing one's child grown monstrous. Harl guided the boat toward a quieter dock, away from the busiest piers. I ain't going in deep, he muttered. Too many soldiers. Too many eyes. Aegon nodded. He had no desire to be pressed into service or questioned. He waited until the boat bumped against a piling. Harl tied it off quickly, hands practiced. That's it, Harl said. You're here. Don't say you weren't warned. Aegon reached into his pouch, counted out more coin. Harl snatched it with a greedy glance and stuffed it into his belt. Aegon stepped onto the dock. The wood creaked under his weight. The city noise rolled over him like a wave, Shouts, laughter, curses, the clatter of carts, the distant ring of bells. For a moment, he stood still and let it wash through him. He felt like a man stepping into his own dream, only to find it had been twisted by someone else's hand. He walked away from the dock, blending into the crowd. His cloak was plain, his hood low. He moved with the confidence of someone who belonged anywhere, yet every step was a test. Every face might hold recognition or danger. He kept his posture slightly hunched, like a man used to hardship. He let dirt smear his hands. He did not look like a king. Inside, he was still one. As he climbed the street away from the harbor, he passed a group of sailors arguing. One spat and shouted, "If the Dragon Queen comes, she'll burn us all." Aegon's head turned slightly. Dragon Queen. The phrase slid under his skin. Another man laughed. "Dragons ain't real," he said. "Only Lannisters are real, and they'll hang you for talking treason." Aegon walked on, but his mind tightened around the words like a fist. Daenerys Targaryen, across the sea, a queen with dragons. And in this city, men already feared her without seeing her. Fear traveled faster than ships. Fear was a raven with black wings. Good, Aegon thought grimly. Fear would make the realm ready to listen. King's Landing had always been loud, but this was a different kind of loud. It was not the bustle of a growing city. It was the roar of a beast that had eaten too much and could not stop. The streets near the harbor were clogged with carts, fishmongers, beggars. He heard accents from all over Westeros, thick northern vowels, the soft sing-song of the Reach, the clipped edge of the Westerlands. He heard the harsh hiss of foreign tongues too. Myrish merchants, Lyseni sailors, a Cohoric smith advertising black steel. He moved through it all like a shadow. The farther inland he went, the worse the smell became. It was as if the city's filth rose in layers, thicker toward the center. He passed tannery vats, steaming and foul. He passed a butcher's stall where flies crawled over meat. He passed a woman with her hair shaved off, face bruised, holding out a hand and whispering for alms. He passed a man missing 2 fingers, singing a song about a king with antlers and a hammer. In his time, Flea Bottom had been a warren of shacks and mud. It still was, but now it sprawled, a living bruise around the heart of the city. The alleys were narrow, buildings leaning like drunks.
Laundry hung overhead, the ripping.
Children darted through crowds like rats, eyes sharp for purses. Aegon kept his hand on his coin pouch. He had learned long ago that conquest did not end danger. Kings died in beds, yes, but men died in streets too, and the street had no respect for crowns. A bell rang nearby, harsh and insistent. A barefoot septon in a stained robe walked through the mud, ringing it and chanting about the 7. A few people muttered prayers. Most ignored him. The septon's eyes were wild, hungry. Aegon watched him with faint disdain. The faith had been a power in his day, and he had used it when it suited him and burned it when it resisted. Yet he had never seen it look like this, desperate, as if trying to shout over the city's rot. He turned into a tavern when the smell of ale and smoke became preferable to the smell of the street. Inside, it was dim and crowded. Men huddled over cups, faces lined with dirt and worry. A fire crackled in the hearth. The air was thick with sweat, stale beer, and something sour beneath fear. Aegon took a seat in a corner where he could watch the room. He kept his hood up. A serving girl with tired eyes brought him a mug without being asked. He slid a copper across the table. She took it quickly, eyes flicking to his face. "Not from here," she said, not a question. He sipped the ale. It was thin, watery, but it warmed his belly. "No," he said. "Best not look like you got coin," she murmured and moved away. He listened. Men talked of war the way farmers talked of weather, always there, always threatening, always ruining crops. They spoke of raids, of taxes, of sons taken to fight and never returning. They spoke of a queen regent with a smile like a blade. They spoke of priests in the streets, of the faith militant rising again, of sparrows. They spoke of dragons as if they were ghosts. A girl with dragons. A man with a scarred cheek was saying, slamming his cup down, "I heard it from a sailor out of Pentos. 3 of 'em, big as houses." Another man laughed, teeth missing. "Big as houses," he scoffed. "And I'm the father himself. Sailors say anything if it gets them a free drink." Scarcheek leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "My cousin fought in the Stepstones," he insisted. "Saw one," he says. "A shadow in the sky, like a storm with wings. Heard a roar that made men piss themselves." The missing tooth man spat. "Dragons died," he said stubbornly. "Everyone knows that. Last one died in King Aegon's time." Aegon's head tilted slightly. King Aegon. Which one? There had been many. The name had been used, reused, as if his descendants had tried to borrow the weight of it. Had it worked? Perhaps not. Scarcheek shrugged. "Maybe they didn't," he said. "Maybe the world's gods ain't done with burning us." A woman at another table began to sing. A soft, mournful tune about a prince who loved a wolf girl and died for it. The tavern quieted for a moment, listening. Someone muttered "Rhaegar" like a curse. Someone else spat. Aegon's fingers tightened around his mug. Rhaegar. He had heard that name once before, from Melisandre's story of the Last Kings. Rhaegar Targaryen. Prince, perhaps. Dead, likely. The song was not flattering. He leaned toward the man nearest him, a broad-shouldered fellow with a battered helm on the bench beside him. "Tell me," Aegon said, voice low, "of the last Targaryen king." The man glanced at him, wary. "Why?" he asked. "Curiosity," Aegon said. "I come from Dragonstone." The man snorted. "Dragonstone's full o' ghosts and witches," he said. "Ain't no good comes from there. Last Dragon King." He scratched his beard, thinking. "Aerys, Mad King Aerys. Burned men alive for sport, they say. Wanted to burn the whole city rather than lose it. Got killed by his own Kingsguard." Aegon's mind sharpened. "Kingsguard killed his king?" he repeated. In his day, the Kingsguard had been sworn shields, white cloaks, honor made flesh. He had created them to be loyal beyond family, beyond gold. A Kingsguard killing a king was a crack in the foundation. The man nodded grimly. "Jaime Lannister," he said. "Kingslayer. Stabbed him in the back, or so the tale goes. Then Robert took the throne." Aegon's eyes narrowed. Jaime Lannister. So the Lion's House had not only taken power, it had betrayed its vows. Or perhaps it had acted to save the city. The common man spoke of madness and wildfire. Aegon did not know this wildfire, but he knew of hidden dangers, of kings who would rather burn their own realm than lose it. He had seen it in defeated lords, in Harren the Black refusing to yield. He had burned Harrenhal and watched Harren die screaming in his tower, pride turning to ash. He had judged Harren harshly. Would he judge his descendant differently? He set the mug on slowly. "And the king's children?" he asked. "Prince Rhaegar died first," the man said, voice lowering as if the name carried danger. "Killed by Robert on the Trident. Then Aerys' other son, Viserys, ran. The little girl too. Daenerys. They say Viserys got a crown o' molten gold from some Dothraki call." He chuckled darkly. "Dragon King got crowned at last." Aegon felt a cold rage creep up his spine. Not for Viserys, whom he did not know, but for the mockery of it. Molten gold. A crown of pain. The world laughing at dragons. "And the girl?" Aegon asked, keeping his voice steady. The man shrugged. "Across the sea. Some say she's dead. Some say she's a whore. Some say she's a queen with dragons." He took a swallow of ale. "Truth is, doesn't matter. Kings don't feed my kids." Aegon studied him. There was no reverence, no fear, only exhaustion. That, more than insults, told him how far his house had fallen. In his day, peasants had trembled at the thought of dragons. They had bowed and prayed when a Targaryen rode overhead. Now they drank and shrugged. Aegon leaned back, eyes on the fire. The flames danced, reflected in his irises. He thought of Aerys, mad and burning. He thought of Rhaegar, sung about with bitterness. He thought of Viserys, killed by molten gold. He thought of Daenerys, somewhere far, perhaps alive with dragons. His blood had ruled for centuries, and yet the last memories men held were madness and mockery. He did not yet know enough to judge, but he felt the shape of judgment forming, like a sword being forged. Heat, pressure, hammer blows. He left the tavern before the song ended. Outside, the city's stench hit him again. He moved through alleys with purpose now. He needed to see the Red Keep. He needed to see the throne. He needed to see what sat at the heart of this beast. He walked up toward Aegon's high hill, the hill he had named for himself. The irony did not escape him. His name on a hill that held a castle built by his command, now occupied by enemies and fools. As he climbed, the streets changed. The buildings grew taller, cleaner. The people wore better cloth. Guards in red cloaks moved with practiced arrogance. Aegon kept his head down, blending, another servant perhaps. At a crossroads, he paused. Above, the Red Keep loomed, red stone darkened by age. Its walls were familiar in shape, but there were additions now, new towers, new battlements. Like scars on old flesh, he studied it, mind working. He had known its secret passages once, every hidden stair and tunnel. He had built them. If they had not been sealed, he could enter unseen. Aegon's lips tightened. He could almost feel the weight of the Iron Throne waiting inside, cold blades welded together, a seat meant to remind every ruler that power was sharp. He had built it as a warning. His descendants had made it a prize. Now he would see who sat near it, and whether they deserved even its cuts. There were passages in the Red Keep that even kings forgot. Aegon had ordered them built because a fortress was only as strong as its secrets. He had wanted ways to move unseen, to appear where he should not, to vanish when knives came for him. Maegor the Cruel had expanded them later, turning the keep into a labyrinth of paranoia. Over centuries, some had collapsed, some had been bricked up, but stone remembered, and Aegon remembered stone. He found the entrance behind a tumble-down stable near the hill's base, where an old wall had cracked and ivy had crept in. A servant girl passing with a bucket barely glanced at him. He waited until she was gone, then slipped into the shadow and pressed his fingers against a seam in the stone. It was there. He felt it like a scar beneath skin. He pushed. The panel gave with a faint groan. Inside, stale air swallowed him. The passage was narrow, steep, cut through thick red stone. He moved without torch, guided by memory and the faint drift of cooler air that suggested an exit. His fingertips traced walls, finding the grooves where he had once run as a younger man, hungry for the thrill of moving unseen. His heart beat steadily. He felt alive in a way that surprised him, alive with purpose, alive with risk. The castle above held enemies, but it also held history. His history. He climbed until he reached a familiar turn. A place where the passage split, one route leading toward Maegor's holdfast, another toward the throne room. He chose the throne room. He wanted to see it first, like a man returning to a house and needing to look at the hearth before any other chamber. He found a hidden door behind a tapestry. The tapestry, now, depicted a lion and a stag entwined, gaudy and smug. He hated it instantly. He pressed a lever behind the frame, and the door opened enough for him to slip through. The throne room was empty. Torchlight flickered along the walls, casting sharp shadows. The hall smelled of smoke and old iron. The Iron Throne rose at the far end, a jagged mountain of blades. It was larger than he remembered, or perhaps his memory had shrunk it. Kings had added swords to it over centuries, as if piling more steel could make it more fearsome. The seat looked like a cruel joke, a monument to violence disguised as authority. Aegon stood at the base of the dais and stared. He remembered forging it, not with his own hands. He had never been a smith, but with his will. He had commanded the swords of defeated foes to be collected, melted, twisted. He had wanted something that would make every lord who looked at it remember the cost of defiance. It was meant to be uncomfortable, a reminder that rule was pain. He had not intended it to become an object of worship. He stepped closer. The metal smelled faintly of rust. The blade's edges caught torchlight like teeth. He reached out and touched a sword hilt half submerged in the mass. It was cold. He felt nothing, no magic, no echo. Just iron. You're either brave or very stupid. The voice came from behind. Aegon did not startle. He turned slowly, hands still on the throne. A man stood in the shadow near the hall's entrance, white cloak draped over his shoulders. He held a sword in his left hand. His right hand was gold, shaped like a hand, but dead metal. His face was handsome in a hard, weathered way, hair pale gold, eyes green and sharp. Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer. Aegon's gaze swept over him like a judge's blade. I could say the same of a Kingsguard who kills his king, Aegon said calmly. Jaime's eyes narrowed. Who are you? He demanded. His gaze flicked to Aegon's face, lingering on the eyes, the hair barely visible under the hood. Suspicion sharpened into something else, recognition of strangeness. A man, Aegon said. A man who wanted to see the throne. Jaime took a step closer, sword angled slightly downward but ready. This isn't a place for men, he said. It's a place for kings, lords, and fools. If you're not one, you shouldn't be here. Aegon's mouth twitched. I made this place for kings, he said softly. Jaime's jaw tightened. You're mad, he said almost automatically. Aegon's eyes did not blink. Perhaps, he said. Tell me, Jaime Lannister, why did you kill Aerys Targaryen? Jaime's expression hardened. Because he deserved it, he snapped. Aegon studied him. He saw anger, yes, but also a deep, old bitterness, like a wound that had festered. The man had carried his act for years like a chain around his neck. The realm called him Kingslayer. The title was both insult and truth. Men say he was mad, Aegon said. They say he wanted to burn his own city. Jaime's laugh was bitter. Men say a lot, he said. They didn't hear him screaming, burn them all, while he hid behind his throne. They didn't see the wildfire. They didn't know he had jars of the stuff under the city, enough to turn King's Landing into a funeral pyre. He swallowed, and for a moment his eyes looked haunted. He would have killed everyone. He would have burned women and children just to spite Robert. Aegon's gaze flicked to the Iron Throne. He imagined a king clinging to it, desperate, willing to destroy what he could not keep. He remembered Harren the Black stubbornness, the way pride could become a poison. You saved the city, Aegon said slowly. Jaime's mouth twisted. And got spat on for it, he said. If I'd let him burn them, I'd be dead, and some singer would call me loyal. Aegon considered. In his day, loyalty had been prized above life. He had demanded it, yet he had also understood necessity. He had burned men who would not bend because bending mattered more than their honor. He looked at Jaime with new interest. The Kingslayer was not simply a traitor. He was a man who had chosen the realm over his oath. That was dangerous. That was also, perhaps, the kind of choice a ruler needed. Who sits this throne now? Aegon asked. Jaime's eyes flicked to the throne, then back. Boy, he said. Tommen, though his mother rules. Cersei. A Lannister, Aegon murmured. Jaime's expression flickered. My sister, he said, as if the words tasted like ash. Aegon stepped away from the dais. He let his hood fall back slightly, enough for torchlight to catch his hair. Silver white, unmistakable. Jaime's gaze snapped to it. His breath caught. Targaryen, Jaime whispered, almost involuntarily. Aegon's purple eyes held his. Aegon, he said. For a heartbeat, Jaime stared as if he were seeing a ghost. Then his mouth hardened again. No, he said. That's impossible. Aegon shrugged slightly. So is a boy king, he said. So is a realm tearing itself apart because men forgot how to fear. The world is full of impossible things. Jaime's sword lifted a fraction, point angling toward Aegon's chest. If you are who you say, he said slowly, then you're dead. I was, Aegon said. Jaime's eyes searched his face, as if trying to find a crack. "And you expect me to believe you crawled out of a grave and walked into my throne room?" he demanded. Aegon's gaze remained steady. "You expect the world to believe you killed your king to save it," he said. "Belief is not my concern. Truth is." Jaime's jaw clenched. "If you're truly Aegon," he said, voice low, "then you're the reason all this started. The throne, the wars, the blood. You made a chair of swords and called it unity." Aegon felt anger stir, but he kept it contained. "I ended wars," he said coldly. "I gave the realm peace." Jaime laughed harshly. "Peace?" he echoed. "You gave it a new way to fight. You made all of Westeros fight over one seat. Before, a man could die for his own king in his own land. Now he dies because some lord in King's Landing wants more." Aegon's eyes narrowed. The Kingslayer spoke with bitter clarity. There was truth there, uncomfortable as a blade against skin. "And what would you have preferred?" Aegon demanded. 7 kings, 7 wars. Forever? Petty squabbles? Endless raids? "I forged a realm." Jaime's gaze did not soften. "You forged a cage," he said, "and then you left it to your children." Aegon's fingers curled. He felt the old impulse rising, the impulse to solve disagreement with fire, with steel. He had always been a man of action. Debate was for maesters. Yet he had returned to judge, and judgment required seeing more than one angle of a blade. He took a breath. "Tell me," he said, voice quieter, "what became of my house?" Jaime hesitated. The sword wavered slightly. "They ruled," he said at last. "Some were good. Some were monsters. Most were people." He swallowed. "The last one, Aerys, was mad, or became mad. He burned men alive. He raped his wife's mind with fear. He planned to burn the city. I killed him." Aegon's gaze held the throne again. He imagined a line of kings sitting there, each one cut by blades of their own making. He imagined dragons dwindling, becoming sickly, then gone. He imagined civil war, family fighting family. Why, dragon against dragon. He imagined his dream rotting. "And now," Aegon said, "my blood is in exile, a girl with dragons." Jaime's eyes flickered. "Daenerys," he said cautiously. "So they say. And a boy?" Aegon asked, remembering rumor of another Aegon, another claimant perhaps. He did not speak it yet. Jaime shook his head. "No boy," he said, "just her. And some say a bastard in the north has Targaryen blood. But that's talk." Aegon's pulse quickened. Bastard in the north. His mind flashed to the painted table. The north. Wolves. The Starks. He could not yet pull on that thread, but he felt it tug. Jaime lowered his sword a fraction, as if the conversation had drained some of the immediate threat. "If you are truly Aegon," he said, voice strained, "what do you want?" Aegon looked at him. In the torchlight, Jaime's face showed fatigue beneath the hard edges. The gold hand gleamed like mockery. This man had killed a king and carried the stigma like a scar. He had served another king, another queen, perhaps out of habit, perhaps out of duty twisted. "What do I want?" Aegon repeated softly. He thought of Visenya's relentless pragmatism. He thought of Rhaenys' softer heart. He thought of his own cold ambition, the drive to make the world submit to order. "I want," he said slowly, "to see whether my house deserves to exist." Jaime stared. "You talk like a god," he said bitterly. Aegon's gaze sharpened. "No," he said. "I talk like a founder who returned to find his work ruined. If you build a bridge and it collapses, you do not blame the river. You blame the builder or those who neglected it." Jaime's mouth twisted. "And you think you can fix it?" he asked. Aegon glanced up at the throne. "Perhaps not," he said, "but I can judge, and judgment changes things." Jaime's eyes darted, as if considering the danger of those words. "If you stay," he said quietly, "Cersei will kill you. She kills threats. She kills anything that makes her feel small." Aegon's lips curved slightly. "Then she and I have something in common," he said. Jaime's expression flickered. Anger, amusement, despair. "You're going to get yourself killed," he said. "Not tonight," Aegon replied. He stepped backward toward the shadows near the tapestry door. Jaime's sword lifted again, but he did not advance. He looked, for a moment, like a man watching a storm approach, knowing he could not stop it. Aegon paused. "Jaime Lannister," he said, "you broke an oath to save a city." Jaime's jaw clenched. Aegon's eyes held his. "If that is true," he said, "then you did what a king should do. You chose the realm over pride." He let the words hang. "Do not waste that choice serving rot." Jaime's face tightened as if struck. "You don't know anything about me," he said hoarsely. Aegon's gaze did not soften. "I know what men become when they sit that chair," he said, and nodded toward the throne. "I know what happens when fear replaces duty. I know what happens when blood think. Yes, it is destiny." He slipped back into the hidden passage. The stone door closed behind him with a soft click, swallowing torchlight. In the darkness, Aegon moved quickly, heart steady. His mind raced. The realm was in the hands of a boy and a lioness. His house was a memory and a rumor. His descendant, a girl, held dragons, perhaps. Another thread, bastard in the north, had been mentioned. And there was the Kingslayer, a man who had killed a mad king to save a city, and now served a queen who might be mad in her own way. Aegon felt a grim satisfaction. The world had not grown simpler in his absence. It had grown more tangled, more dangerous. Good. A tangled knot could be cut. A dangerous world demanded a dragon's judgment. He reached the stable entrance and slipped out into the night. The air outside was cold, smelling of horse and damp hay. He pulled his hood up and vanished into the streets. Behind him, in the throne room, Jaime Lannister stood beneath the Iron Throne and stared at the shadows, as if he had seen a ghost and could not decide whether to fear it or hope for it. Aegon did not sleep. The city slept in pockets. Drunk men slumped in doorways, whores curled like cats beside customers, guards nodding on walls. Yet even in Rest King's Landing moved, breathed, plotted. Rats scurried, bells tolled hours. Somewhere, a man screamed, and somewhere else, laughter answered. The city was never truly quiet. Aegon moved through it like a blade slipping between ribs. He had left the Red Keep with more questions than answers, but one name had lodged in his mind like a splinter: Cersei Lannister, a queen regent who ruled through fear. He had ruled through fear too, but he had balanced it with something else, something like inevitability. Dragons had made his rule feel like the natural order. Without dragons, fear alone curdled into hatred. He needed information, not tavern talk, not fisherman rumors. He needed the truth that lived behind doors and under floors. In his day, kings relied on lords, maesters, septons. He had used them all, but he had always trusted his own eyes more than their words. Now he needed a new kind of tool, a web of whispers, a man who knew what was hidden. He found that man because the city wanted him to. The first sign was subtle: a beggar who watched him too closely. The second was a child who bumped into him and did not try to steal his coin. The third was a glance from a woman in a doorway, a flicker of recognition that did not fit. Aegon followed the trail deliberately, letting them think they were leading him. It brought him, near midnight, to a bakery with its shutters closed. The smell of stale bread lingered. A small door behind it stood ajar, as if forgotten. Aegon slipped inside. A staircase led down into darkness. He descended without hesitation. The air grew cooler, damper. He smelled mold and old stone. At the bottom, a tunnel stretched away, narrow and low. A lantern burned halfway down, its light trembling. A man stood by that lantern. He was bald, round-faced, dressed in plain dark cloth. His hands were soft, fingers jeweled with rings that caught the lantern light. His eyes were calm, almost gentle, yet there was something in them like a knife behind velvet. Lord Varys. Aegon had never met him. Varys had not existed in his time, but he recognized the type. A man who survived by knowing more than anyone else, by being underestimated, by standing close to power without holding it openly. Varys bowed deeply when he saw Aegon, as if bowing to a king. The gesture was so smooth, so practiced, that it might have been sincere or might have been a trap. "Your Grace," Varys said softly. Aegon did not react. He kept his posture relaxed, hands at his sides, as if he were unarmed. He was not. The iron dagger was at his belt. More importantly, his presence was a weapon. "You know who I am," Aegon said. Varys' smile was small. "One learns many things in my position," he murmured. "Some by listening, some by watching, and some by surviving long enough for impossible things to happen." Aegon's eyes narrowed. "How?" he demanded. "No one should know. I have spoken to few." Varys spread his hands slightly. "King's Landing has ears," he said. "And you, pardon me, are not subtle even when you think you are. You walk like a man who expects the world to make room. You look at the Red Keep as if you own it." His gaze flicked to Aegon's face. "And there is the matter of your eyes." Aegon's jaw tightened. He had forgotten for a moment how rare his features were in this city. Silver hair could be hidden, purple eyes could not. "You risk much," Aegon said, voice cold. "Speaking to me." Varys' expression did not change. "I risk much every day," he said. "It is my profession." Aegon stepped closer, into the lantern light. The tunnel's damp air clung to his skin. "Tell me," he said, "why seek me?" Varys' eyes held his. "Because you should not exist," he said softly. "And yet you do. That means something. And because Westeros is dying by inches, it needs correction." Aegon's mouth curved slightly. "Correction," he echoed. "A polite word for conquest." Varys' expression remained calm. "Words are tools," he said. "We choose the ones that suit the ears we speak to." He paused. "I have served kings. Some were good, some were cruel. Most were simply men trying to hold a chair that cuts. But none of them were you." Aegon studied him. "What do you know of me?" he asked. Varys' gaze lowered briefly, as if choosing his words with care. "I know you forged a realm," he said. "I know you did it with dragons and with cunning. I know you understood that fear could bend men, but law could keep them bent. I know you married your sisters to keep your blood close, and in doing so you planted both strength and sickness." His eyes lifted. "And I know your descendants forgot your balance. They remembered the fire, but not the discipline. They remembered the crown, but not the work." Aegon felt a cold satisfaction. "You speak boldly," he said. Varys' smile returned. "Boldness is safer than flattery with you," he said. Aegon's eyes narrowed sharply. "Tell me," he said, "of my house. Not tavern songs, not rumors. The truth." Varys folded his hands. The lantern light made his rings glint. "The truth is long," he said, "and painful." "Speak," Aegon commanded. Varys inhaled slowly. "After you," he began. "Your son Aenys ruled gentle and weak, then Maegor cruel and strong. The realm learned to fear the dragon not as a protector but as a monster. The faith rose against you. Dragons burned septs. Men died screaming in the name of gods who did not answer." He watched Aegon's face closely. "Then Jaehaerys, the conciliator, brought peace. He ruled well. He strengthened laws. He tamed tempers. He proved your realm could be held by more than flame." Aegon felt a flicker of respect. Jaehaerys. He had heard the name carved faintly in memory, perhaps from Melisandre's mention of wise kings. "Continue," he said. Varys' voice turned darker. "Then came the NCE," he said, and the words fell like stones. "A war of succession. Dragons against dragons. Family against family. The skies over Westeros filled with fire, and the ground drank blood. When it ended, the dragons were nearly gone. They dwindled, sickened, died." Aegon's jaw tightened. He imagined it. Dragonfire tearing dragon wings, Valyrian blood burning Valyrian blood. He felt something in him twist. He had brought dragons to Westeros as a tool to end war, and his descendants had used them to make war apocalyptic. And then, he demanded. Then there were more kings, Varys said. Some good, some foolish, some mad. There were rebellions, blackfires, bastards with dragon blood who challenged trueborn kings. There were tragedies, Summerhall, where fire consumed a king's dream. He paused, eyes narrowing slightly, and then Aerys, the last dragon king. His madness destroyed what little reverence remained. Aegon's hands curled. And Robert Baratheon, he said. Varys nodded. The usurper, he said. He took the throne with a hammer and a smile. He ruled by charm and violence. He left the realm in debt, fat and decaying. When he died, his realm cracked, and the war began again. The lions, the wolves, the stags, the kraken. 5 kings, then more. The throne has not known peace in years. Aegon's eyes hardened. And my blood? He asked again. My line? You said a girl with dragons. Daenerys. Varys' gaze sharpened. Yes, he said. Daenerys Targaryen, the last known trueborn descendant of your line. He hesitated, then added, or so most believe. Aegon's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Varys' smile was faint. There are always secrets, he said. Always hidden branches of trees thought cut down. Rumors of a boy, Aegon Targaryen, they call him, son of Prince Rhaegar, rescued from slaughter. Raised in exile, prepared to return. Aegon's pulse quickened. Another Aegon, another claiming his name. He felt a surge of anger and curiosity in equal measure. Is he true? He demanded. Varys spread his hands. Truth, he said, is sometimes less important than belief, but he paused. I believe him to be a valuable piece on the board. Aegon's eyes narrowed sharply. A piece, he repeated. The word was an insult. You speak of blood as if it were a game. Varys' expression remained calm. It is a game, he said softly. A deadly one, played with armies and lies. If you do not see it, you lose. Aegon's voice went colder. In my day, men who played games with dragons burned. Varys' smile did not reach his eyes. In your day, dragons made the rules, he said. In this day, dragons are gone, until Daenerys Targaryen returns. Aegon stepped closer until he was nearly face to face with Varys. The tunnel felt tighter, the air thicker. And what of the north? He asked. I heard talk of a bastard with dragon blood. Varys' eyes flickered, and for the first time Aegon saw a crack. A tiny hesitation, as if something there was dangerous even to speak. Jon Snow, Varys said after a moment. Bastard of Eddard Stark, Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Now king in the north, some say. Aegon's brows rose slightly. King, he murmured. Another king, another crack. And his blood. Varys' face smoothed. Rumor, he said. Nothing proven. A singer's fancy. Aegon watched him. The lie was not in the words, but in the carefulness. Varys knew more. He always did. Aegon leaned back. So, he said slowly, there is a queen with dragons. A boy claiming to be my line. A bastard perhaps with my blood. And the throne is held by lions and stags. Varys nodded. Yes, he said. Westeros is a tinder pile. One spark will set it alight. Aegon's eyes gleamed faintly in lantern light. Then perhaps, he said, a dragon should return to decide what burns and what is spared. Varys' hands clasped tighter. That is why I sought you, he said, because you are not only a dragon. You are the first, the root, the myth that became law. If you speak, men may listen. If you judge, men may fear. Aegon finished. Varys' gaze held his. Hope, he said quietly. Aegon's mouth tightened. Hope was a softer weapon, harder to wield. He did not trust it. He studied Varys for a long moment. The man was dangerous. He spoke like a servant, but he moved pieces like a king. He might be useful. He might also be a knife. Why do you care? Aegon asked. About my house. You are not a lord. You have no blood claim. What do you want? Varys' face softened with something like sincerity. I want a realm that does not eat its children, he said. I was born in the streets of another city. I have seen what happens when rulers treat people as coins. Westeros has been ruled by men who think the throne is a prize, not a burden. I serve the realm, as the phrase goes. He smiled faintly. It is fashionable to call that a lie. Perhaps it is, but it is my lie. Aegon considered. A man who served the realm could still be a traitor to kings. He had seen such men. Sometimes they were right. What would you have me do? Aegon asked. Varys' eyes brightened slightly, cautious excitement. You should leave King's Landing, he said at once. Too many eyes, too many dangers. Cersei Lannister will not tolerate a rival dragon, even a ghost of one. Go to Dragonstone. It is empty now, but it is yours by right. When Daenerys Targaryen comes, she will come there first. Meet her. Judge her. Decide whether she is fire that will forge or fire that will consume. And the boy, Aegon said. This other Aegon. Varys' mouth tightened, a flicker of something like guilt. He is on his way, he said. He will land in Westeros soon, if he has not already. He has an army, the Golden Company. He will move quickly before Daenerys arrives. Varys' eyes held Aegon's. He will need guidance, or he will become another king who bleeds the realm. Aegon's lips curled with contempt. A dragon king who buys his throne with Sel's words, he said. Varys' voice was quiet. Your own conquest was not paid for with love, he said. Aegon's gaze snapped up, sharp. I had dragons, he said. I did not need to hire men to believe in me. Varys inclined his head. That is precisely the problem, he said softly. Your descendants believed dragons were enough. When the dragons died, they had nothing else. Aegon stared at him, then looked back to the papers. The truth was bitter. His house had become dependent on its own myth. Without it, they were just another family clawing for power, except hated more for their past. He set his hands flat on the table. Daenerys, he said, tell me everything you know. Varys' eyes softened slightly. She was a frightened girl in exile, he said, sold as a bride to a Dothraki warlord. She learned to survive. She learned to command. She walked into fire and did not burn. Dragons were born. His voice grew more intense, as if the story still astonished him. She freed slaves. She took cities. She has a sense of justice that borders on fanaticism. She also has a temper. She is young, and the world has hurt her. She believes destiny is hers. Aegon listened. Young, hurt, fanatic, justice, temper, destiny. Rhaenys had been young once, full of laughter and stubborn will. Visenya had been hurt, hardened by it. Aegon had believed destiny was his, and he had made it so. Daenerys might be a blend of all three. And her dragons? Aegon asked, voice softer despite himself. Varys' mouth tightened. Growing, he said, large enough to kill men. Not yet large enough to conquer a continent alone, but give them time. Aegon felt a hunger flare, unexpected. Dragons, living flame, the world's balance shifting again. And Jon Snow, Aegon said, returning to the other thread. You call him rumor, yet you know his name. Varys' gaze slid away for a fraction. He is important, he admitted. Not because of blood, perhaps, but because of the North. Because of the Wall. Because of what lies beyond. His voice dropped. There are things in the world older than your conquest, your grace. Things that do not care about thrones. Aegon's eyes narrowed. The Wall, he repeated. He had known of it, of course. It had existed long before him, an absurdly large structure of ice in the far north. He had never seen it. He had never cared. The North had bent the knee, and the Wall had been a distant curiosity. What lies beyond? He asked. Varys looked uncomfortable. Stories, he said. Old tales. The dead walking. Cold shadows. He forced a small smile. I do not believe in such things, but I have learned that belief is less important than preparation. Aegon's gaze hardened. I have returned, he said, And everyone tells me of stories, prophecies, dragons reborn, dead walking. He leaned forward. Is the world truly so desperate that it must dress its wars in myth? Varys' voice was quiet. Or perhaps, he said, the world has always been myth wearing a man's face. You, of all people, should you understand that you became a legend while still alive. Men will do anything for legends. They will kill for them, die for them. Aegon sat back. He looked down at the family tree again, his name branching into countless lines, then narrowing, dwindling, until only a few names remained at the end. Viserys, dead. Daenerys, alive. Perhaps this boy claimant. Perhaps the bastard. 300 years of blood. And it all came down to a girl across the sea and rumors in the north. It would have been laughable if it were not tragic. Aegon's eyes lifted. I will go to Dragonstone, he said. I will wait there. Varys nodded. I will arrange it, he said. Quietly, there are still men loyal to the idea of dragons. Smugglers, old servants. They can bring supplies. Aegon stood. And you, he said, will keep your tongue still. If I am to judge, I will choose when the realm knows. Varys bowed. As you command, he said. Aegon paused, then added, if Daenerys comes, if this boy comes, if Jon Snow matters, bring them to me. Varys' eyes flickered. Bring them, he echoed, and there was a strange note in his voice, almost relief. Yes, Aegon turned. Show me how to leave unseen, he commanded. Varys stepped aside, gesturing down the tunnel. This way, he said. They walked through damp corridors where the walls sweated. Aegon's mind raced ahead. Dragonstone, Daenerys, the boy claimant, Jon Snow. The throne's rot, the realm's hunger for fire. Above them, King's Landing slept fitfully, unaware that the man who had forged its crown had returned to decide whether it deserved to keep any crown at all. Varys did not lead him out of the city at once. First, he led him deeper into the Red Keep's belly, into a chamber so small it might once have been a storage closet. Its walls were stone, its air dry compared to the tunnels, and it held a simple table, a stool, and a chest bound in iron. Candles burned on the table, their flames steady. This room, Varys said softly, was used by a king who feared his own shadow. He kept certain documents here, things he did not want maesters to see. Aegon's eyes flicked over the chamber. He could smell old parchment. He could smell wax. Secrets. Varys opened the iron-bound chest and lifted out scrolls, books, ledgers. He set them on the table carefully, as if handling bones. You wanted truth, he said. Here is some of it. Not all. There is always more. Aegon sat, ignoring the stool's discomfort. He pulled the first book toward him. The cover was cracked leather, stained. Inside, inked lines formed a family tree. Names branching like veins. Targaryen names. Aenys, Maegor, Jaehaerys, Viserys, Rhaenyra, Aegon, Aegon, Aegon. So many Aegons. It was as if his descendants had tried to summon his shadow by repeating his name. He traced the lines with his finger, following blood through centuries. Marriages between siblings, between cousins, between uncle and niece. Dragons and incest, power kept close, fear of dilution. Visenya had insisted on it, or perhaps it had been inevitable. Valyria's way. Yet seeing it sprawled across paper generation after generation made it look less like tradition and more like obsession. He turned pages. There were notes in margins, Maester's commentary dry and judgmental, mentions of madness, mentions of stillbirths, mentions of deformities, mentions of coinage, of laws, of rebellions. The ink told a story colder than songs. Aegon's fingers tightened. They wrote us like specimens, he muttered. Varys' voice was soft. Maesters love to categorize, he said. It makes them feel safe. Aegon flipped to another ledger. This one held accounts, taxes, debts, expenditures. Numbers. He understood numbers. He had measured conquest in men and gold and ships. He read of loans from the Iron Bank of Bravos. He read of debts that had grown like rot. He read of gold mines of Lannister wealth. He read of the crown being in debt to its own subjects. He felt disgust. A king in debt was a king on his knees. He pulled another scroll. It was a chronicle written in a careful hand, describing the dance of the dragons. Names leapt out: Rhaenyra, Aegon II, Daemon, Aemond. He read of brothers and sisters turning on each other, of dragon battles in the sky, of towns burned because one claimant wanted to frighten the other. He read of the storming of the dragon pit, small folk swarming and killing dragons, maddened by hunger and hatred. Aegon's throat tightened. He remembered dragons as unstoppable. To imagine peasants killing them with ropes and spears was to imagine the sun being stabbed out of tea. He read on. He read until his eyes burned. He saw patterns emerging like blood in water.
Breathe.
Fear, succession disputes, prophecy, men thinking their blood made them gods, then behaving like monsters and being treated like monsters in return. He pushed the scroll away and stared at the candle flame. Varys watched him quietly. "It is a great deal to take in," he murmured. Aegon's voice was low, rough. "They wasted it," he said. "They wasted dragons. They wasted fear. They wasted law. They turned my work into a curse." Varys said nothing. Aegon reached for another book, hands steady now with controlled anger. This one was about Ares too. The writing was cautious, as if afraid of the subject even after death. It spoke of paranoia, of cruelty, of wildfires, of executions by flame. It spoke of a queen, Riella, abused. It spoke of a prince, Rhaegar, beloved by some, feared by others. It spoke of rebellion. Aegon's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. He remembered being stern with his sons. He had demanded duty. He had not been gentle. He had not been cruel for cruelty's sake, but he had known that softness invited challenge. Had that hardness, passed down, become madness? Or had madness been something else? A sickness of blood, of isolation, of too much power? He turned a page and saw a list of those burned by Ares. Lords, knights, a Stark, Brandon Stark, burned, and his father strangled trying to save him. Aegon's breath caught. Starks had been loyal to him, proud but loyal. They had knelt and he had respected them. To see Stark blood burned by a dragon king made something twist. No wonder the North rebelled. No wonder Gulb snarled. He closed the book slowly. The candlelight wavered. "Where is this boy?" Aegon asked suddenly, voice quiet. "Who calls himself Aegon Targaryen?" Varys hesitated. "He is moving," he said. "He will not want his path known even to friends. But he is near enough that whispers reach me. Stormlands, perhaps, or the Stepstones. He intends to strike where the realm is weakest." Aegon's eyes narrowed. "He has an army," he said. "The Golden Company. Mercenaries." Varys nodded. "Yes." Aegon's lips curled with contempt. "A dragon king who buys his throne with Sel's words," he said. Varys' voice was quiet. "Your own conquest was not paid for with love," he said. Aegon's gaze snapped up, sharp. "I had dragons," he said. "I did not need to hire men to believe in me." Varys inclined his head. "That is precisely the problem," he said softly. "Your descendants believed dragons were enough. When the dragons died, they had nothing else." Aegon stared at him, then looked back to the papers. The truth was bitter. His house had become dependent on its own myth. Without it, they were just another family clawing for power, except hated more for their past. He set his hands flat on the table. "Daenerys," he said, "tell me everything you know." Varys' eyes softened slightly. "She was a frightened girl in exile," he said, "sold as a bride to a Dothraki warlord. She learned to survive. She learned to command. She walked into fire and did not burn. Dragons were born." His voice grew more intense, as if the story still astonished him. "She freed slaves. She took cities. She has a sense of justice that borders on fanaticism. She also has a temper. She is young, and the world has hurt her. She believes destiny is hers. Aegon listened. Young, hurt, fanatic, justice, temper, destiny. Rhaenys had been young once, full of laughter and stubborn will. Visenya had been hurt, hardened by it. Aegon had believed destiny was his, and he had made it so. Daenerys might be a blend of all three. And her dragons? Aegon asked, voice softer despite himself. Varys' mouth tightened. Growing, he said, large enough to kill men, not yet large enough to conquer a continent alone, but give them time. Aegon felt a hunger flare, unexpected. Dragons, living flame, the world's balance shifting again. And Jon Snow, Aegon said, returning to the other thread. You call him rumor, yet you know his name. Varys' gaze slid away for a fraction. He is important, he admitted. Not because of blood, perhaps, but because of the North. Because of the Wall. Because of what lies beyond. His voice dropped. There are things in the world older than your conquest, your grace. Things that do not care about thrones. Aegon's eyes narrowed. The Wall, he repeated. He had known of it, of course. It had existed long before him, an absurdly large structure of ice in the far north. He had never seen it. He had never cared. The North had bent the knee, and the Wall had been a distant curiosity. What lies beyond? He asked. Varys looked uncomfortable. Stories, he said. Old tales. The dead walking. Cold shadows. He forced a small smile. I do not believe in such things, but I have learned that belief is less important than preparation. Aegon's gaze hardened. I have returned, he said, and everyone tells me of stories, prophecies, dragons reborn, dead walking. He leaned forward. Is the world truly so desperate that it must dress its wars in myth? Varys' voice was quiet. Or perhaps, he said, the world has always been myth wearing a man's face. You, of all people, should understand that. You became a legend while still alive. Men will do anything for legends. They will kill for them, die for them. Aegon sat back. He looked down at the family tree again, his name branching into countless lines, then narrowing, dwindling, until only a few names remained at the end. Viserys, dead. Daenerys, alive. Perhaps this boy claimant. Perhaps the bastard. 300 years of blood. And it all came down to a girl across the sea and rumors in the north. It would have been laughable if it were not tragic. Aegon's eyes lifted. I will go to Dragonstone, he said. I will wait there. Varys nodded. I will arrange it, he said. Quietly, there are still men loyal to the idea of dragons. Smugglers, old servants. They can bring supplies. Aegon stood. And you, he said, will keep your tongue still. If I am to judge, I will choose when the realm knows. Varys bowed. As you command, he said. Aegon paused, then added, if Daenerys comes, if this boy comes, if Jon Snow matters, bring them to me. Varys' eyes flickered. Bring them, he echoed, and there was a strange note in his voice, almost relief. Yes. Aegon turned toward the tunnel. He felt the weight of the scrolls behind him like the weight of 1,000 dead kings. The past pressed on him, demanding verdict. In the candlelight, his shadow on the wall looked like a dragon's silhouette, long and jagged. He stepped into the dark and let the candlelight die behind him. Aegon did not leave King's Landing immediately. Varys had offered escape routes, boats, disguises, and yet Aegon lingered like a predator scenting the weak point in prey. He had seen the throne room. He had spoken to the Kingslayer. He had read the bones of his house's history. Now he wanted to see the lioness who ruled his city, Cersei Lannister. He had met queens before. Queens of the Reach with jewels heavy on their throats. Queens of the Stormlands with pride like armor. Queens of the Rock with gold in their veins. He had married 2 queens himself. He had understood that queens could be as dangerous as kings, sometimes more, because men underestimated them. He wanted to see this one's eyes. Varys arranged it, of course. Varys arranged everything, quietly, like a spider moving threads. He found Aegon a plain servant's tunic, rough cloth, a cap to shadow his hair. He smeared ash on Aegon's hands to make them look worked. He placed him among servants carrying trays and refilling cups in the small council chamber. Aegon stood at the edge of the room, head bowed like a servant, and watched. The chamber was smaller than the throne room, warmer, more intimate. A table of dark wood sat in the center, carved with the sigils of the great houses. Candles burned low, their wax pooling. The air smelled of parchment and sweat. Cersei Lannister sat at the table's head. She was not as old as he expected. Not young, but in the prime of her power. Her hair was golden, cut shorter than many noblewomen's, framing her face. Her dress was dark, almost black, as if she wore mourning or threat. Her eyes were green, sharp, and cold. She held a cup of wine like a weapon. Beside her stood a man in maester's robes. Qyburn, Varys had whispered. Not a true maester, but a creature of science and cruelty. His face was pale, his eyes calculating. He leaned close to Cersei, murmuring, like a whisper given flesh. Kevan Lannister sat to one side, older, sterner. His gaze moved constantly, as if weighing every word for danger. Other men sat around the table, lords, knights, officials. They looked tired. They looked afraid. Aegon watched Cersei's mouth move as she spoke. "The faith is a problem," she said, voice smooth and hard. "The sparrows grow bolder every day. They think they can dictate to the crown." Kevin's voice was controlled. "They have the people," he said. "Crush them too harshly, and the city will riot." Cersei's smile was thin. "Let them riot," she said. "Rioters burn. I am tired of being told what cannot be done." Aegon's eyes narrowed. The language was familiar. Aerys had spoken like that if the chronicles were true. Pride turning into madness. A ruler hearing only her own will. Qyburn leaned in. "There are measures," he murmured. "Subtle ones. If we remove certain leaders." Cersei's eyes gleamed. "Yes," she said. "Subtle." Aegon felt a cold fury creep through him. This was the ruler of King's Landing? A woman who spoke of burning rioters if it were an inconvenience? A woman who treated the realm as her personal wound? Yet he forced himself to watch without immediate judgment. A conqueror could not afford to hate too quickly. Hate blinded. Hate made men predictable. He watched how others reacted to her. Some flinched. Some nodded. Some kept their faces blank, like men standing too close to fire. Kevan leaned forward. "The Tyrells," he said. "They will not accept being pushed aside. They have the food. The Reach feeds this city." Cersei's eyes flashed. "The Tyrells," she said, disdain dripping. "A rose that thinks it can strangle a lion. They are ambitious. They are dangerous." She lifted her cup, took a slow sip. "We will handle them." Aegon's mind worked. Tyrells, Reach, food. The realm's power was not only in swords and dragons. It was in grain, in roads, in alliances. Cersei spoke as if she could simply crush every obstacle. That kind of arrogance could destroy a kingdom faster than any invasion. Qyburn spoke again, voice low. "There is also talk," he said, "of a Targaryen girl across the sea." Cersei's mouth tightened. "Daenerys," she said, and the name sounded like poison. "Let her come." Aegon's gaze sharpened. Kevan looked uneasy. "Dragons," he said quietly. "If the rumors are true." Cersei's smile was cold. "Rumors," she scoffed. "Let her bring her monsters. I have my own." Qyburn's lips curved faintly, as if pleased. Aegon felt a chill that had nothing to do with the candles. Monsters. What monsters did a lioness queen keep? He remembered Varys whispering of Qyburn's experiments, of dead things made to move. He dismissed it as exaggeration, then remembered Varys' words about things beyond the wall, about the dead walking. The world was becoming stranger. Cersei's gaze swept the room, pausing briefly on servants, on shadows. For a moment, her eyes landed on Aegon. He kept his head bowed, expression blank. Her stare lingered a heartbeat too long. Aegon felt the weight of it like a knife's edge. Then she looked away, dismissing him as insignificant. Good, he thought coldly. Underestimation was armor. The council continued. They spoke of gold, of debts, of armies. Aegon listened, absorbing. The crown was weak, not in strength of cruelty but in foundation. Too many enemies, too many fires, too much paranoia. Cersei ended the meeting abruptly. "Enough," she said. "I will not be lectured by men who tremble at shadows. Go. Do what I commanded." The lords rose, bowed stiffly, and filed out. Kevin lingered a moment, looking as if he wanted to argue, then thought better and left. Soon, only Cersei and Qyburn remained. Aegon watched as Qyburn leaned in close. Cersei's face softened for a heartbeat, not into kindness but into something like hunger. Power hunger. Control hunger. "You will find out who whispered of dragons to the faith," she murmured. Qyburn nodded. "Yes, your grace," he said. "And the other matter, the rumors of an unusual man in the city." Aegon's blood went still. Cersei's eyes narrowed. "What unusual man?" she asked. Qyburn's gaze flicked to the door, as if checking for listening ears. Aegon froze, but he was just a servant in shadow. He forced his breath to remain steady. "There have been whispers," Qyburn said quietly, "of a silver-haired stranger asking questions about the Targaryens, about the throne. Some think he is a spy. Others," his mouth tightened, "others are fools." Cersei's smile was thin. "Find him," she said. "Bring him to me, alive if possible, dead if necessary." Aegon felt the air shift, as if the room had suddenly become a battlefield. His hand tightened around the tray he held. He kept his head down. Qyburn bowed. "As you command," he murmured. Cersei stood. Her dress whispered. She walked toward the door, then paused, looking back at the table as if it were a throne in miniature. She touched the chair's back, fingers curling around with like a possessive grip. Aegon watched her, and in that moment he understood something with grim clarity. She did not want the throne because it served the realm. She wanted it because it was hers, because it filled a void in her that could never be filled. Such rulers did not stop until everything around them was ash. Cersei left. Qyburn followed. Aegon remained in the shadows until the chamber was empty. Then he set the tray down silently and slipped away, heart beating steady. They were looking for him now. The hunt had begun. Good, he thought. Let them hunt. Let them waste time chasing a ghost while the real dragon returned to his lair. He moved through corridors and stairwells, keeping to servant routes, avoiding guards. He felt as he went the old thrill of infiltration. The Red Keep's secrets were still his, even after centuries. The castle's bones recognized him. He reached the hidden passage and slipped inside, vanishing into the stone's belly. Behind him, above, Cersei Lannister sat in her chambers, unaware that the man who had forged the throne she coveted had looked into her eyes and found only hunger. And in that hunger, Aegon had seen his verdict forming, sharper with each heartbeat. They could hunt him all they liked. Aegon did not intend to be caught in a lioness's jaws. He met Varys again beneath the city, in a chamber that smelled of wax and dust. This time there was urgency in the spider's movements, a tightness around his eyes. "Qyburn is looking," Varys murmured as soon as Aegon stepped into the candlelight. "Cersei has ordered it." Aegon's expression did not change. "Let him look," he said. Varys' mouth tightened. "If you are found," he said, "you will be killed. No trial. No mercy." Cersei Lannister does not understand restraint. "Neither did Maegor," Aegon said, voice flat. "Yet Maegor died." Varys studied him. "You plan to leave tonight," he said. It was not a question. Aegon nodded. "Yes," he said, "but first I will send word." Varys blinked. "Word to whom?" he asked, though Aegon saw he already guessed. Aegon sat at the table and pulled parchment toward him. The candle flame flickered. He dipped a quill into ink. "3, he said, as if naming a strategy. 3 threads of my blood or near my blood. Daenerys Targaryen. The boy claimant calling himself Aegon Targaryen. Jon Snow. Varys' eyes sharpened. Jon Snow, he repeated. You believe. I believe nothing yet. Aegon cut in. But rumor exists for a reason. Either there is truth or someone wants men to believe there is. Both matter. He began to write. The script was Valyrian, flowing, elegant. His hand did not tremble. Felt strange, writing again after centuries. Yet the motions were familiar, like drawing a sword. He wrote to Daenerys first. Not flattery, not pleading, not a command, though it carried the weight of one. A simple invitation, no, a summons, crafted in words that would strike her blood like a bell. To Daenerys Targaryen of the blood of the dragon. Come to Dragonstone. Come not as conqueror, but as heir. Bring your dragons. Bring your truth. There is judgment to be made, and fire to be weighed. He did not sign it with a grand title. He signed it simply, Aegon of House Targaryen. Then he wrote to the boy claimant, to the one who dared wear his name. He made the letter shorter, sharper. To Aegon Targaryen who claims my blood. If you are true, come prove it. If you are false, come die for it. Dragonstone awaits. His quill scratched harshly, as if the ink itself disliked the words. Then Jon Snow. This one, he wrote in the common tongue first, then in Valyrian beneath, as if hedging against ignorance or secrecy. He did not know whether Jon could read Valyrian. Few could. But if the rumor was true, the sight of the script alone might stir something. To Jon Snow, called king in the north, there is talk of dragon blood in your veins. I do not care for talk. Come to Dragonstone. Come alone or with counsel, but come. The realm is breaking. If you are what rumor says, you will not hide behind snow forever. He set the quill down. He stared at the 3 letters as if they were knives laid out on a table.
Varys stood silent.
Etching. After a moment, he said softly, These words could start a war. Aegon looked up. There is already a war, he said. I am simply giving it a spine. Varys' expression tightened. How will you send them? He asked. Aegon reached into his cloak and withdrew 3 tokens. First, an old Valyrian coin Melisandre had given him, tarnished but unmistakably foreign, stamped with a dragon that looked more like a serpent. Second, a small charm shaped like a dragon, crude but symbolic, something a sailor might believe in. Third, a shard of dragonglass, black and sharp, a piece of Dragonstone's heart. He placed 1 token atop each letter. A sign, he said, something that cannot be forged easily, something that will make them pause. Varys' eyes flickered to the dragonglass shard. That one, he murmured. Why that? Aegon's gaze sharpened. Because the world is full of old things, he said. And if Jon Snow has reason to care about the wall, he will recognize this stone's value, or someone near him will. Varys nodded slowly, as if understanding more than he said. Aegon melted wax over each folded parchment, then pressed a seal into it. Not a seal of the current crown, those were lions and stags, but a 3-headed dragon, carved from an old ring Varys had produced. The wax held the impression like a wound. When he finished, the letters looked like missiles ready to be fired. Varys stepped forward. I will send them, he said quietly, by different routes. Quietly, it will take time. Aegon's eyes narrowed slightly. Time. He hated waiting, yet he had waited 300 years. A few weeks were nothing. Do it, he said. Varys lifted the letters carefully, as if they were fragile. If Daenerys Targaryen comes, he said softly, she will bring fire. If the boy comes, he will bring war. If Jon Snow comes, he will bring the north, Aegon finished. Varys' gaze held his. And if none come? He asked. Aegon's mouth curved in a cold smile. Then, he said, my judgment will be simpler. Varys bowed and slipped out with the letters, vanishing into tunnels that led to ravens, to ships, to whisper networks. Aegon remained at the table. The candle guttered slightly. He thought of Daenerys. A girl turned queen by fire. He thought of the boy claimant, a crafted prince perhaps shaped by men like Varys. He thought of Jon Snow, a bastard king in snow, rumored dragon blood. 3 heads of the dragon, the old prophecy fragment Melisandre had mentioned, the phrase he had seen in half-burned notes. He had dismissed prophecy in his life, yet here it was again, circling like a vulture. He leaned back. The chair creaked. He closed his eyes briefly and let memory rise unbidden. Visenya's voice. "We must keep our blood strong, Aegon. The world will always try to pull us down." Rhaenys laughter. "Or we could simply be happy and let the world do what it will." His own voice. "We do not have the luxury of letting the world do what it will." He opened his eyes. The candle flame trembled, then steadied. He stood. "Now," he said to the empty room, "we go home." The escape from King's Landing was not clean. It never was, not when lions hunted. Varys led him through tunnels to a cellar beneath a tavern near the river. From there, a trapdoor opened into a narrow canal that stank of sewage. Aegon waded through it without complaint, cloak held high, boots, borrowed now, sinking into filth. He emerged in a back alley where a cart waited, piled with sacks of grain and covered in a ragged tarp. "Stay low," Varys murmured. "Do not speak." Aegon climbed into the cart and lay among the sacks, breathing dust. The cart jolted forward, wheels clattering. Through gaps in the tarp, he saw flashes of street. Lantern light, mud, boots, the hem of a red cloak. He felt, for the first time since waking, something like vulnerability. Not fear of death. He had faced death in war and returned from it now as if it were a door, but the irritation of being hunted like a common criminal. He wanted to stride into the throne room and tear the lioness from her seat. He wanted to stand on the red keep's battlements and announce himself. Watch the city kneel in shock. He did not. Not yet. Judgment required patience. The dragon did not always burn immediately. Sometimes it waited until the prey gathered, then struck. The cart rolled through a gate. Aegon heard guards' voices, the creak of iron, the clink of coins. He listened, body still, eyes closed, letting his senses do the work. A guard's voice. "What's this?" Another. "Grain for the kitchens." Late. A third, sharper. "We're supposed to be watchin' for a silver-haired bastard. Queen's orders." Aegon's muscles tightened. The first guard laughed. "Silver hair? Like a bloody ghost? Ain't no ghosts in my gate." The sharper guard muttered, "Search it." The cart slowed. Aegon's heart beat steady, but he felt every beat. He could hear boots approaching, the tarp rustling. A hand grabbed the tarp's edge and yanked. Cold air hit Aegon's face. Light flared in. He kept his eyes closed, body limp, as if asleep or dead. The guard grunted. "Just sacks," he said. He jabbed one with the butt of his spear. Grain spilled, dust puffing. Aegon did not move. The guard swore. "Close it," he snapped. "We ain't got time for this." The tarp fell back. Darkness returned. The cart jolted forward again, passing through the gate, out of King's Landing's walls. Aegon exhaled slowly, careful not to cough. Hours later, he was on a small ship slipping away from the coast. The red keep shrinking behind him into a red-brown smudge against gray land. The sea air tasted clean compared to the city's rot. Wind whipped his face. He stood on deck, hood up, watching the horizon. Varys did not come with him. The spider remained in the city, holding webs, pulling threads. He had simply bowed on the dock and said, "Until Dragonstone, Your Grace." Aegon had not corrected him. The title felt strange. Grace. He had been called many things: king, dragon, conqueror. Grace was softer. Perhaps the world needed softer words now. Perhaps it did not deserve them. The ship was faster than Harl's fisherman boat, but the sea still demanded its due. Storm clouds gathered on the second night, black and heavy. Lightning flashed far off, illuminating waves like jagged teeth. Aegon stood in the rain anyway, letting it soak him. Water ran down his face, cold. He welcomed it, felt like cleansing. When Dragonstone's silhouette rose from the sea, black against storm, Aegon felt something like relief. Home, he thought, or what had once been home. The ship could not dock safely in the storm. The captain, an old smuggler with eyes like wet stones, swore and pointed at a narrow cove. "We'll put you ashore there," he shouted over wind. "That's all you get." Aegon nodded. He climbed into a small boat and rowed with 2 sailors toward the black beach. Waves slammed them. Rain blinded. The sailors cursed. Aegon rowed steadily, muscles burning, remembering wars. The boat scraped rock. They leapt out into knee-deep water and dragged it up. Aegon stepped onto Dragonstone's shore. The sand was black, mixed with stone. The waves were violent, hammering. Wind tore at his cloak. He walked up the beach alone, leaving the sailors to wrestle the boat back into the surf. He stood at the base of a cliff and looked up. Dragonstone rose above, carved and cruel, its towers like dragon heads biting into storm sky. Lightning flashed, and for a moment the castle looked alive. A beast crouched in darkness. Aegon's hair whipped loose from his hood, silver strands plastering to his face. He pushed them back, eyes lifted to the clouds. He felt it before he saw it. A pressure in the air, a shift, as if the sky itself had grown heavier. Then, between lightning flashes, a shadow moved overhead. Aegon's breath caught. At first, it was only a darker patch of cloud, a smear. Then lightning ripped the sky open, white and violent, and in that heartbeat of light he saw it clearly. Vast wings, membranes stretched like sails, a body long and sinuous, a tail whipping. A dragon. The sight hit him like a blow. His chest tightened painfully. His mind refused it for a moment, insisting it was memory, hallucination, wish. But the shadow moved with purpose, circling, riding the storm like it owned it. Aegon's hands clenched. He felt rain run down his knuckles. He lifted his face, eyes wide, and for a moment he was not a conqueror returned from death. He was a dragon lord seeing his birthright in the sky. Lightning flashed again. The dragon's silhouette vanished into cloud. Aegon stood very still, listening. The sea roared. The wind howled. Somewhere above, there was a distant sound. Low, resonant, not thunder. A rumble that shook something deep in Aegon's bones. A dragon's voice. He swallowed hard. His eyes burned with rain and something else. Daenerys, he thought. She is nearer than I believed. He walked up the beach toward the path that led to the castle. Each step sank into black sand. His cloak clung to him. He felt the weight of his dagger at his belt, absurdly small now that a dragon had passed overhead. He reached a rise and paused, looking back at the sea. The ship that had brought him was already disappearing into storm. The world behind him was gray chaos. Ahead, Dragonstone waited, black and ancient. Above, somewhere in the storm, a dragon circled. Aegon Targaryen lifted his chin. The rain washed his face clean. His purple eyes were hard, bright. He felt the cold certainty settle into him again, heavier than any crown. The realm was breaking. His blood was returning. Fire was stirring. Judgment would not be delayed much longer. He turned and climbed toward the castle, a solitary figure against wind and darkness, while the dragon's shadow moved unseen above, and the night pressed in like a hand, as if the world itself wanted to see what the Conqueror would do next. The storm did not break when he climbed. It clung to Dragonstone as if the island had earned it. Aegon's boots, borrowed, ill-fitting, scraped wet stone. The path up from the beach wound between jagged black outcrops, slick with rain, and every gust of wind threw spray from the sea up into his face. He tasted salt and iron and the faint, sour tang of ash that seemed baked into the island's breath. Above him, the castle crouched, all fangs and scales in carved stone, a beast that remembered fire. He expected emptiness. He expected ghosts. He heard voices instead. Not the familiar roughness of Dragonstone's fisherfolk, not the clipped consonants of Westerosi guards. These voices carried other rhythms, sharp commands, strange vowels, words that did not belong to the narrow sea. Aegon slowed, eyes narrowing beneath his hood. Torches flared ahead, their flames fighting rain. Shadows moved, disciplined, purposeful, not the shuffling of a neglected garrison. A line of spears barred the path. Men stood shoulder to shoulder in armor unlike any he'd seen in his life. Bronze helms, segmented cuirasses, cloaks dark with water. Their faces were hard, their eyes forward. Their spears held level with a unity that spoke of drilling until the body obeyed before the mind could question. Unsullied, he thought, remembering Varys' words, filing them into place with sudden clarity. At their center stood a man with a rigid posture and a scar that cut across one cheek like a pale worm. His eyes did not shift, his mouth set as if carved. He held a spear too, but he wore authority like a second skin. Behind the spearmen waited mounted riders, horses restless in the rain, men with dark braids, curved blades at their hips. Their eyes were bright with predatory amusement as they watched the lone figure climbing toward them. The scarred commander spoke, and though the words were not the common tongue, Aegon recognized the cadence of command. The Unsullied tightened their line by an inch, spear points unwavering. Aegon stopped within reach of the spear points and lifted both hands slowly, palms open. He kept his posture relaxed, not submissive. The commander's gaze flicked briefly to Aegon's hair, where a strand of silver had escaped his hood, and something sharpened in the man's expression. Aegon spoke first, in the old tongue, letting the syllables roll with an archaic precision that had once made lesser men straighten their backs. "Anagar hen Zalagon," he said quietly. "I am no enemy." A ripple went through the line, not fear but surprise. One of the Unsullied glanced sideways, as if startled to hear Valyrian from a stranger on a storm-swept Westerosi path. The commander replied in the same tongue, but with a flatter, simpler accent, as if he had learned it as a tool rather than inherited it. "No one comes to Dragonstone unannounced," he said. "State your name." Aegon's eyes held his. Rain ran down his lashes. "Aegon Targaryen." The Dothraki behind laughed, short, barking sounds swallowed by thunder. One rider leaned forward in his saddle, teeth flashing. "He says dragon name," the rider said in rough common tongue, half mocking. "Little man with big name." The commander did not laugh. His gaze remained steady, but Aegon saw calculation there. He knew the name. Everyone knew it. Whether they believed it mattered less than what the name could cause. The commander spoke again, in the common tongue this time, as if deciding the theater of the moment required everyone to understand. "Aegon Targaryen is dead," he said. "If you lie, you die." Aegon's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "So I've been told." The commander's eyes narrowed. "You will come," he said. "The queen will decide." Aegon did not move. He stared past the spear points at the gate beyond, at Dragonstone's black arch carved like a dragon's maw. A fortress he had once owned, now guarded by foreign soldiers. The insult should have burned. It did briefly, but beneath it lay a colder, sharper interest. His descendant had arrived before him, with an army, with dragons. Good, he thought. Let the trial begin where the blood is thickest. "I will come," he said. The commander gave a short gesture. Two Unsullied stepped forward, spears shifting aside. Their hands moved to restrain him with practiced efficiency, but Aegon lifted a hand. "Do not," he said softly. The old authority in the word was a blade. "I am not your prisoner." One Unsullied hesitated. The commander's eyes flicked to Aegon's face, measuring whether pride would become danger. Then, after a heartbeat, he nodded once. "No chains," he ordered, voice flat. "But you will not run." Aegon met his gaze. "If I wish to run," he said, "you would not stop me." The commander's expression did not change, but the Dothraki behind grinned wider, as if pleased by the edge in the air. The spears parted. Aegon walked through, boots splashing in rainwater, head high beneath his hood. He passed between the Unsullied ranks and felt their discipline like a wall of iron. Not the scattered loyalty of Westerosi levies, not the swagger of Sellswords. These were men emptied of fear by design. As he entered the gatehouse, thunder rolled, and somewhere above, faint and deep, came the sound he had heard on the beach, a distant rumble that was not storm. The hairs on Aegon's arms rose. A dragon was near. Dragonstone's courtyard was alive in a way it had not been when he left. Men moved with purpose under the rain, hauling crates, tightening ropes, leading horses that snorted and stamped on slick stone. Foreign banners snapped in the wind. Black cloth emblazoned with a red dragon's shape, sharper and cleaner than the old three-headed sigil he remembered, as if the symbol had been reborn with new teeth. Torches burned in iron brackets, their flames hissing in rain, turning water into steam. The air smelled of wet leather, horse sweat, and salt. Aegon caught the sharp scent of pitch from ship's rigging. Beyond the walls, he heard the low groan of the sea and, beneath it, the murmur of an anchored fleet. So she had come with ships as well as dragons. Grey Worm. Missandei said his name once, and Aegon filed it away, walked him into the center of the yard and stopped. The Unsullied line shifted with him, always in formation, always controlling space. The Dothraki lingered at the edges like wolves circling an elk, amused by the restraint of men who did not laugh. Missandei stood near Grey Worm, her cloak pulled tight. She watched Aegon not like a soldier watching an enemy, but like someone watching a story unfold. Her eyes were dark, thoughtful. She looked young, but there was a steadiness in her that suggested she had seen enough cruelty to stop flinching at it. Grey Worm spoke. "You said your name," he said. "Say it again." "Aegon Targaryen," Aegon replied. A Dothraki rider snorted. "He likes it," the rider said. "He wants the queen to laugh." Missandei's voice was soft, but it carried. "The queen does not laugh at everything," she said, and there was a warning in it. Grey Worm's eyes stayed on Aegon. "Why are you here?" he asked. Aegon looked up at Dragonstone's towers. Rain ran down carved dragon snouts like tears. "To see what my house has become," he said. Grey Worm's gaze hardened. "Your house," he repeated. "You claim the blood of Daenerys Targaryen." "I claim the blood that made Daenerys Targaryen possible," Aegon said calmly. A low murmur went through nearby soldiers. A few Dothraki laughed again, but even their laughter held a note of uncertainty now, as if the man in front of them did not fit neatly into the shape of a liar. Missandei took a half-step forward. "There is a boy," she said carefully, eyes searching Aegon's face. "In the stories, Aegon the Conqueror. He lived long ago." "I lived," Aegon corrected. "I died too. That part seems to satisfy people." Grey Worm's jaw tightened. He had no patience for riddles. He lifted his spear slightly. "If you are a spy," he said, "you will die. If you are a fool, you will die. If you speak her name with disrespect, you will die." Aegon's eyes went cold. "You threaten me in my own castle," he said quietly. Grey Worm did not flinch. "It is her castle now," he said. For a heartbeat, the courtyard seemed to tighten, as if every man's grip on every weapon grew firmer. Aegon felt the LD instinct to assert dominance flare, fire and steel, immediate and absolute. He swallowed it, not because he feared these men, but because killing them would prove nothing except that he was still a conqueror who solved all problems with blood. He turned his head slightly, scanning faces. He saw Westerosi among the foreigners too. Sailors, a few knights in worn mail, men whose eyes darted with the nervousness of those who had switched banners and were unsure if they had chosen well. Then, from a shadowed archway, red entered the courtyard like a drop of blood in rainwater. Melisandre stepped out, her robe clinging darkly to her legs, her hair damp, copper strands stuck to her cheeks. The ruby at her throat glowed faintly, as if warmed from within. When her eyes landed on Aegon, something like satisfaction flickered. Grey Worm turned, his spear shifting fractionally toward her out of instinct. "Melisandre," he said, and the name carried wariness. Missandei's face softened with recognition and caution. "You left," she said quietly. "We thought you would not return." Melisandre did not look at them. Her gaze remained fixed on Aegon as if he were the only true flame in a storm. "I return when I am called," she said. Grey Worm's eyes narrowed. "This man," he began. Melisandre lifted a hand, palm outward, the gesture of someone stopping a sermon. "Do not kill him," she said simply. The Dothraki laughed again, louder. One shouted something in his tongue. The Unsullied did not laugh. Grey Worm's voice was flat. "Why?" he demanded. Melisandre stepped closer to Aegon. Rain slid down her lashes. "Because he is not a spy," she said. "He is not a fool." She paused, and the ruby at her throat pulsed as if in agreement. "He is the reason this castle exists." Missandei's breath caught. Grey Worm's eyes narrowed further, suspicion hardening. "You claim he is—" Missandei began, then stopped, as if the words themselves were too large. Melisandre's voice dropped. "Aegon Targaryen," she said, and there was reverence in the way she shaped the name, like a prayer that had teeth. "The Conqueror." Aegon watched Grey Worm carefully. The commander did not show fear, but something shifted behind his eyes. Uncertainty. The tiny crack that appears when certainty is challenged by the impossible. Grey Worm turned his spear back toward Aegon. "Prove," he said bluntly, "or die." Aegon's mouth twitched. "That is a Westerosi answer," he said. "Simple, bloody, comforting." Melisandre's gaze slid to Grey Worm. "Take him to the Queen," she said. "Let her look into his eyes and decide." Grey Worm hesitated. His loyalty was to Daenerys, but he also listened to counsel. Missandei's eyes moved between Melisandre and Aegon, curiosity battling caution. "The Queen is not here," Grey Worm said at last. Aegon's head turned sharply. "Not here?" He echoed. Missandei answered, voice soft. "She is above," she said. "With the dragons." Above. Aegon felt the word in his chest like a pulse. "Then take me," he said. "I have waited 300 years. I can climb stairs." Grey Worm studied him for a long moment. Then, with a sharp gesture, he ordered the Unsullied to escort Aegon inside. Missandei fell into step beside them. Melisandre followed last, her red robes trailing, like a flame unwilling to be left behind. As they crossed the courtyard, Aegon looked up once more at Dragonstone's carved towers. For the first time since waking, he did not feel like a man returning home. He felt like a man walking into a trial where the judge and the accused might be the same blood. The painted table chamber smelled of smoke and sea, and beneath those something older, stone warmed by fire long ago. Torches burned in iron sconces, their flames steady despite the storm outside. The carved map of Westeros spread across the table like an open wound, every river and coastline etched in relief, painted with colors that had been refreshed recently. Someone had tended the map. Someone had claimed its usefulness. Aegon's eyes lingered on the table, on the shape of the continent he had once taken with dragons. The sight hit him with a strange, double sensation, ownership and alienation braided together. His hand twitched, wanting to reach out as he had centuries ago, to trace routes and decide who would kneel next. A woman stood at the far end of the table, Daenerys Targaryen. She was smaller than the legends would make a dragon queen, but Aegon had learned long ago that power did not always announce itself in size. She wore a dark coat fastened with a silver clasp, her white blonde hair braided back from her face. Her skin was pale, her eyes a deep, clear violet that struck Aegon like a fist. Targaryen eyes. His eyes. For a heartbeat, he saw Visenya's stare there, sharp as a drawn sword. He saw Rhaenys' stubbornness too, the spark that refused to bend. But there was something else in Daenerys' expression, an intensity born of suffering, of having been hunted and underestimated, of having clawed power from hands that tried to break her. Beside her stood a man whose very posture was a question. Tyrion Lannister was smaller than most men, but he filled space with alertness and wit. His hair was lighter than the average Westerosi, his beard trimmed, his eyes bright and assessing. He watched Aegon with a kind of gleeful skepticism, as if the world had handed him an absurdity and he wanted to taste it. A darker, heavier presence stood near a pillar. Jorah Mormont, armor-worn and practical, face lined with loyalty and regret. His eyes held suspicion and protectiveness as he looked at the stranger escorted in by Unsullied. Grey Worm brought Aegon forward and stopped him at a respectful distance from the table. Missandei stood just behind the commander, hands folded, gaze steady. Melisandre drifted into the chamber last, her ruby catching torchlight like a drop of blood. Daenerys' eyes moved over Aegon. She did not speak at once. She assessed him the way a ruler assesses a threat. Not only what he is, but what he might become. Grey Worm spoke. "This man came to Dragonstone," he said. "He claims a name." Daenerys' gaze did not leave Aegon. "What name?" she asked. Aegon lifted his chin. "Aegon Targaryen." The silence that followed was not empty. It was loaded like a crossbow drawn and held. Tyrion's mouth curved faintly. "An ambitious choice," he murmured. Daenerys' eyes narrowed. "Many men have claimed that name," she said, voice cool. "Some of them even believed it." Aegon held her gaze. "I do not claim it," he said. "I own it." Jorah stepped forward half a pace, his hand drifting near his sword. "Your Grace," he said to Daenerys. "This could be a trap." Aegon's eyes flicked to Jorah, then back to Daenerys. "Everything is a trap," he said calmly. "Even thrones." Daenerys' mouth tightened. "You speak boldly for a man surrounded by my soldiers," she said. Aegon's tone remained even. "You speak boldly for a queen standing on my island," he replied. A flash of heat crossed Daenerys' face. Not rage, not yet. Something sharper, like pride pricked by a needle. "Your island," she repeated softly. Tyrion's eyes gleamed with interest. "Now that," he said, "is either the finest confidence I've ever seen or the most spectacular stupidity." Aegon glanced at him. "You must be Tyrion Lannister," he said. Tyrion blinked, then bowed with exaggerated politeness. "At your service," he said. "Or at least, at the service of the queen you're currently insulting." Daenerys' gaze stayed on Aegon, unwavering. "Who are you?" she demanded, and the question carried the weight of an empire she was trying to build. "If you are a liar, I will have you thrown into the sea. If you are a spy, I will have you fed to my dragons." Aegon felt the old thrill at the word dragons. He did not show it. "If you are Daenerys Targaryen," he said, "then you have already fed men to dragons. That does not make you unique." Jorah's eyes hardened. "You know nothing of her," he snapped. Aegon's gaze flicked to Jorah. "Then tell me," he said quietly, "why you look at her as if she is the last fire in a winter that wants to kill you." Jorah stiffened, struck by the accuracy. Tyrion watched, eyebrows lifting. Daenerys' voice grew colder. "Answer my question," she said. Aegon took a breath. He tasted smoke. "I am Aegon of House Targaryen," he said, and the words settled into the chamber with the weight of old stone. "The first king of Westeros, the Conqueror." For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Then Tyrion laughed, softly, not cruelly, but with the delight of a man hearing a story become absurd. "Well," he said, "that's a new one." Daenerys did not laugh. Her eyes narrowed, as if she were trying to burn through Aegon's skull and see the machinery of his lie. "You expect me to believe a dead king has returned," she said slowly. Aegon's gaze held hers. "I do not expect," he said. "I offer you the chance to see." Melisandre stepped forward, voice low. "He is what he says," she murmured. "I saw it in the flames. Her ruby pulsed. I helped bring him back." Tyrion turned to stare at her. "Of course you did," he said, as if the world could not possibly be stranger without her assistance. Daenerys' eyes flicked to Melisandre, then back to Aegon. "If you are him," she said, "prove it." Aegon's mouth curved slightly. "Gladly," he said. He stepped toward the table. Grey Worm's spear shifted, blocking him instantly. The Unsullied commander's expression did not change, but his body was a wall. Daenerys lifted a hand. "Let him," she said. Grey Worm hesitated, then lowered the spear. Aegon moved to the edge of the painted table and placed his palm flat on Westeros. The carved land was cool beneath his hand. He felt the grooves of rivers, the ridges of mountains. He remembered touching this same table with Visenya at his shoulder. He looked up at Daenerys. "This table," he said softly, "was carved from Dragonstone's heart at my command. I ordered the neck shaped too narrow, because I wanted the North to remember it could be held like a throat. I ordered the Riverlands painted last, because they were too often the battlefield of petty kings. I told my sister Rhaenys that the Stormlands look like a dragon's jaw, and she laughed and said it looks like a drunk man's teeth." Daenerys' face remained guarded, but her eyes flickered, something between surprise and uncertainty. Tyrion leaned in slightly, fascination sharpening. "That's oddly specific," he murmured. Aegon's fingers slid to a spot near the crownlands. He pressed, not hard but with certainty. A hidden catch clicked. A small panel beneath the table's edge shifted, revealing a narrow compartment concealed in the stone base. The sound was quiet, but it struck the room like thunder. Daenerys' breath caught despite herself. Aegon reached in and withdrew a ring, old, dark metal, etched with a dragon's head, worn smooth by centuries. He held it up. "This was Visenya's," he said. "She wore it when she threatened a lord in this very chamber and made him swear his sons would kneel too." Yora's eyes widened slightly. Missandei's lips parted. Daenerys stared at the ring as if it were a ghost made solid. Tyrion's voice was low now, amusement fading into something like awe. "Either you are the greatest liar ever born," he said, or he is what he says," Melisandre whispered. Daenerys' gaze snapped back to Aegon. "Anyone could hide a ring," she said, but her voice lacked its earlier certainty. "Anyone could learn stories." Aegon nodded once. "Then I will show you something no story can give," he said quietly. Aegon slipped his hand beneath his cloak and drew out the crown. It was heavier than it looked, forged not of bright gold but of dark Valyrian steel. Its surface faintly rippled as if it remembered dragonfire. Rubies sat along its band like captured blood, dull in torchlight until they caught a flame and flared. It was not ornate, not delicate. It was a soldier's crown, made to be worn in war, to be seen from a dragon's back. The crown he had worn when Torrhen Stark knelt, when Harrenhal burned, when 6 kings died and the 7th bowed his head. He set it down on the painted table with a soft clink of metal on carved wood. The room seemed to inhale. Daenerys took a half-step forward without meaning to, eyes locked on the crown. Aegon saw her throat move as she swallowed. For the first time, the Dragon Queen looked young. Not because her posture collapsed, but because wonder cracked her armor. Tyrion's expression had shifted entirely. The sardonic amusement was gone, replaced by the careful stare of a man recognizing a piece on the board he never imagined existed. "That crown," he began, then stopped as if words failed him. Yora's face tightened. He looked between Daenerys and Aegon like a man seeing a blade placed too close to his queen's throat. Grey Worm's grip on his spear remained steady, but Aegon saw a tiny shift in his stance. Respect, perhaps, or at least a recalibration. Soldiers understood symbols. They knew when a weapon had history. Daenerys reached a hand toward the crown, fingers trembling faintly, then stopped herself a hair's breadth away. "It could be stolen," she said, but her voice betrayed her. She did not believe it. Aegon watched her hand hover. "From where?" he asked quietly. "From which tomb? From which treasury? Tell me, Daenerys Targaryen, who kept this crown safe for 300 years, untouched by greed, unmelted by war." Her eyes flicked up to his. The violet in them looked suddenly less like fire and more like a storm. Melisandre stepped closer, her ruby pulsing brighter, painting red light across faces. "The flames do not lie," she whispered. Daenerys' jaw clenched. "The flames lie all the time," she snapped, and there was old bitterness there. Prophecies, priests, men who had used her name and blood like bait. She looked back at Aegon. "If you are truly Aegon," she said, "then you are the beginning of my story. You are the reason my family ruled." Her eyes narrowed. "And you are the reason my family fell." Aegon did not deny it. He inclined his head a fraction, the gesture of a man acknowledging a wound. "Yes," he said, "that is why I must see you clearly." Daenerys' jaw clenched. "Then see," she said, and her voice turned sharp as steel. "But understand this, Aegon Targaryen. Whether you are ancient king or clever liar, you do not command me." Aegon's smile was slight. "Good," he said. "I do not want a queen who can be commanded." Daenerys blinked, thrown off balance by the answer. Aegon lifted, his gaze toward the ceiling, toward the faint vibration in the stone that told him something massive moved above. "You said you would feed me to your dragons," he said. "I would like to see them." Yora's hand tightened on his sword hilt. "Absolutely not," he said. Daenerys' eyes narrowed. Then, after a long heartbeat, she nodded once. "Fine," she said. "You will see them." Her voice softened into something dangerous. "And they will see you." They climbed through Dragonstone's guts to reach the open air. The corridors twisted like dragon intestines. Black stone, sharp turns, stairs carved steep and narrow. Torches flickered. Aegon felt the castle's bones under his feet, remembered where passages used to lead, noted where they had been widened, where doors had been repaired. Daenerys walked ahead, shoulders straight, as if she feared that hesitation would show weakness. Grey Worm followed with Unsullied, a moving wall of discipline. Tyrion came too, though Aegon saw the tension in his face, the eager curiosity of a mind that wanted to see and the very human fear of standing near flying fire. Yora walked at Daenerys' shoulder like a loyal hound ready to bite. Missandei trailed slightly behind, eyes flicking from face to face. They emerged onto a terrace carved into the cliffside, open to the storm. Wind hit them hard, tearing at cloaks and hair. The sea below was a writhing sheet, waves smashing against rocks and exploding into white spray that rose like smoke. The sky was iron gray, but the storm had begun to thin. The rain fell lighter now, more mist than lash. Daenerys stepped to the terrace's edge and lifted her hand. Aegon felt it again, the pressure in the air, the subtle shift that came with something enormous moving nearby. The stones under his boots seemed to tremble faintly, as if the castle held its breath. A shadow crossed the terrace. Then Drogon dropped from the clouds. He landed with a force that shook the stone, talons scraping, wings half spread to catch balance. His scales were blacker than night and glistened wet, each one catching light like polished armor. Steam curled from his nostrils, his eyes red, molten, alive, fixed on the humans before him. Aegon's heart thudded hard. For a moment, everything else fell away. The sea, the wind, the unsullied spears, the queen's rigid posture. There was only the dragon, the living echo of Valyria's greatest power. Drogon's head lowered slightly, neck curving with predatory grace. He took a slow step forward, nostrils flaring. Grey Worm's men shifted, spears angling instinctively, but Daenerys snapped a word in Valyrian, sharp and commanding. The Unsullied froze. Grey Worm's jaw tightened, obeying. Tyrion whispered, almost to himself, "Gods." And Aegon did not know which gods he meant. Daenerys spoke again, voice steady despite the wind. "Zaldrizes," she said. "Dragons." She reached a hand toward the beast, fingers spread. "Drogon, Swyzi, it is all right." Drogon's eyes flicked to her, then back to Aegon. The dragon's gaze pinned Aegon like a spear. Aegon felt the weight of it, ancient and hungry. Dragons were not horses. They did not obey because they were trained. They obeyed because something in them recognized dominance, recognized blood, recognized fear as a taste on the air. Aegon took a slow step forward. Yora's voice snapped, harsh. "Your Grace." Daenerys did not look at him. Her eyes stayed on Drogon. "Let high. she said quietly. Aegon's cloak flared in the wind as he moved closer, stopping within a handful of paces. Drogon lowered his head further, nostrils almost level with Aegon's chest. Heat rolled off the beast, making the cold wind feel like nothing. Aegon lifted his hand slowly, palm outward, not in supplication but in acknowledgement, the way one might greet a dangerous equal. He spoke in High Valyrian, not the simpler command phrases Daenerys used, but the old, full-bodied tongue of dragonlords. "Dohiras," he murmured. "Serve." Drogon's lip curled, exposing teeth like curved daggers. A low rumble rose in his throat, vibrating through the stone into Aegon's bones. It was not a roar. It was a warning. Aegon did not flinch. He leaned in a fraction and spoke again, voice lower, more intimate. "I have ridden your kind," he said, and though Drogon could not understand the words, Aegon aimed the meaning at the creature like a spear. "I have been fire in the sky." Drogon's nostrils flared. The dragon inhaled, drawing in Aegon's scent. The heat of his breath washed over Aegon's face, smelling of smoke and raw meat and something metallic. Aegon felt, unexpectedly, a flicker of sadness. Balerian's breath had been hotter. Balerian's shadow had been larger. But Balerian had been old, heavy with the weight of Valyria itself. Drogon was young and furious, a storm given flesh. Drogon's head tilted slightly, as if puzzled. His eyes narrowed. Then he did something that made the Unsullied tighten and Tyrion freeze mid-breath. He pushed his snout forward and touched Aegon's lifted hand. The contact was brief, warm, scaled, surprisingly gentle. Aegon felt the texture under his palm, the living armor. Drogon's breath huffed, almost like a snort, and Aegon caught a whiff of ash. Daenerys' expression cracked. For the first time, the queen looked genuinely shaken. Her eyes widened, and her hand, still held out toward Drogon, trembled. "No," she whispered, as if the sight in front of her tried to rewrite her certainty. He doesn't." Drogon lifted his head again and looked at Daenerys. Smoke curled from his nostrils like impatience. Then, slowly, he folded his wings tighter, settling into a wary stillness. Aegon lowered his hand. He looked at Daenerys, rainwater in his lashes, wind tugging his cloak like a banner. "You asked for proof," he said softly. "Dragons do not bow to stories." Daenerys' mouth opened, then closed. Her pride fought her astonishment. She forced her chin up. "Drogon is not bowing," she said, voice tight. "He is curious." Aegon's eyes held hers. "Curiosity is where obedience begins," he replied. Tyrion swallowed hard. His voice came out dry. "Well," he said faintly, "that settles absolutely nothing and terrifies me more than anything I've ever seen." Aegon almost smiled. Daenerys' gaze snapped back to Drogon, then to Aegon again. The storm wind whipped her hair. She looked like a blade being forged, heated, hammered, resisting the shape forced upon it. "Come," she said abruptly, turning away from the terrace. "We will talk." Aegon watched Drogon one last heartbeat. The dragon's eyes followed him as he walked away, red and unreadable. Behind them, the sea thundered. Above them, the sky shifted, and for an instant Aegon thought he saw, in the thinning cloud, the outline of another dragon circling, watching, waiting. Not all judgments would be private. The solar Daenerys chose was not the grandest room in Dragonstone, but it was private and defensible. Thick stone walls held the fire's warmth. A narrow window looked out onto a slice of storm-dark sea. The furniture was heavy, carved, meant to endure. It reminded Aegon of Visenya's taste. Practical, severe, unromantic. Daenerys stood on one side of the table, hands braced on the wood as if holding herself steady. Aegon stood opposite, cloak damp now drying slowly in the fire's breath. Yora remained behind her shoulder like a shadow with a sword. Melisandre lingered near the wall, half in darkness, ruby faintly pulsing. Tyrion was absent. Daenerys had dismissed him with a glance and a word. This was blood business, not council entertainment. Daenerys spoke first, voice low. "If you are truly Aegon," she said, "then you have no right to appear now and demand anything from me." Aegon inclined his head slightly. "I demand nothing," he said. "I ask questions." Daenerys' laugh was short, bitter. "Questions?" she echoed. "As if you are some kindly grandfather come to see how the children have grown." Aegon's gaze did not soften. "Kindness has never been my weapon," he said, "but neither is cruelty for its own sake. Tell me, Daenerys, what do you want from Westeros?" Daenerys' eyes flashed. "My throne," she said at once. "The one stolen from my family." Aegon's mouth tightened. "Stolen," he repeated. "Your family lost it." Daenerys stiffened. Yora's hand flexed, as if restraining himself from stepping forward. Aegon's voice stayed level. "There is a difference," he said. "If a man steals your sword, you hunt him. If you drop your sword in battle, you learn why your grip failed." Daenerys' nostrils flared. "My father was murdered," she snapped. "My brother was hunted. I was sold like cattle. I did not drop anything." Aegon watched her, seeing the scars under the crown. "No," he said quietly. "You inherited the fall." Daenerys' fingers dug into the table's edge. "And you inherited nothing," she said, voice rising. "You took everything with fire. You made my family into a symbol, a monster in every song. Do you know what it is to live in that shadow? To have men see you and imagine madness before you speak?" Aegon's eyes narrowed. "I know what it is to have men see you and imagine death," he said. "I know what it is to be feared before you are understood." He leaned forward slightly. "Fear is not an injustice, Daenerys. It is a tool, a dangerous one." Daenerys' voice dropped. "You would have me rule with fear." Aegon shook his head once. "I would have you rule with balance," he said. "Fear to stop rebellion. Law to stop fear from becoming hatred. Justice that does not become vengeance." He paused. "You crucified men in Meereen." Daenerys' jaw clenched. "They crucified children," she repeated, as if the words were a shield she could not set down. Aegon held her gaze. "And you became the kind of ruler who decides what pain is deserved. He said. "That is the road to madness. Not blood, not dragons. Certainty." Daenerys' hands trembled. "I freed them," she said, and there was desperation under the pride. "I broke chains. I did what no one else would." Aegon's voice softened by a fraction. Not into kindness, but into clarity. "You did something righteous," he said, "and then you learned that righteousness can be used to justify anything." He watched her closely. "Tell me, when you take King's Landing, what will you do with it?" Daenerys' eyes flicked to the window, to the storm-dark horizon, as if she saw a city there already. "I will rule," she said. "I will rebuild. I will punish those who betrayed my family." Aegon's mouth tightened. "Punish," he echoed. "How?" Daenerys' gaze snapped back. "I will not be like my father," she said fiercely. "I will not burn the city." Yora's eyes softened, relief flickering. Aegon did not relax. "And if the city resists?" he asked. "If they hide behind walls and refuse to open gates? If they call you foreign and monster and swear they will die before they kneel? What then?" Daenerys' throat worked. "Then they will learn," she said, voice tight. "They will learn the cost of defiance." Aegon's eyes went cold again. "That is a beautiful sentence," he said softly. "It is also the sentence every tyrant speaks before he becomes one." Daenerys flinched as if struck. "Do not call me." "I call you nothing yet," Aegon interrupted sharper. "I am deciding." Daenerys' hands curled into fists. "You are not my judge," she hissed. Aegon leaned forward, voice low, dangerous. "I made the throne you want," he said. "I forged the realm you want to rule. I am your blood's beginning." His eyes held hers, unblinking. "If anyone has the right to judge what my blood has become, it is me." Silence snapped tight. Melisandre's ruby pulsed once, brighter, as if pleased. Daenerys' chest rose and fell. She looked, suddenly, like someone standing at the edge of a cliff, furious, frightened, unwilling to step back. Then she spoke, and her voice steadied into something like truth. "I want to break the wheel," she said quietly. "I want a world where children are not chained, where lords do not treat people like meat, where," she swallowed, "where I am not alone." Aegon watched her. There it was. Not just ambition, not just vengeance. Loneliness. Deep and sharp, the kind that makes rulers cling too tightly to crowns because crowns do not leave. He straightened slowly. "Then listen," he said. "This is my first trial." Daenerys' eyes narrowed. "Trial?" she repeated, bitter. "I do not." "You will," Aegon said, voice absolute. "Because if you cannot pass it, you will burn Westeros and call it liberation." Daenerys' jaw tightened. "Speak," she said. Aegon's gaze was steady as stone. "Win without burning," he said. "Take something from your enemy without dragonfire. Not a city, not a castle. Something harder." His eyes sharpened. "Take loyalty." Daenerys stared at him. "Loyalty cannot be taken," she said. Aegon's mouth curved slightly. "Exactly," he said. "It must be earned. Show me you can earn it without terror." Daenerys' breath hissed through her teeth. "You ask for impossible," she said. Aegon's eyes did not soften. "I conquered 6 kingdoms," he said. "I did not do it by burning every village." He paused. "I burned enough to make the rest choose peace." Daenerys' eyes flared. "So you admit it," she snapped. "Fear." Aegon nodded once. "Yes," he said. "Fear." Then, quieter, "And restraint." Daenerys' voice dropped into a dangerous calm. "And if I refuse your trial?" she asked. Aegon's gaze held hers. "Then my judgment will be simple," he said. Yora's hand tightened on his sword hilt. Melisandre's smile was a shadow. Daenerys stared at Aegon for a long moment, then turned her head slightly toward Yora as if seeking the anchor of his loyalty. Yora's eyes were pleading, cautious. At last, Daenerys looked back at Aegon. "Fine," she said, voice taut. "Your trial." Aegon inclined his head. "Good," he said. "Now we see what kind of dragon you are." Tyrion found Aegon the way clever men always found what interested them, by pretending it did not. He waited until Daenerys dismissed her guards, until Yora was called away to oversee patrols, until even Melisandre drifted into her own shadows. Then Tyrion appeared in a corridor with a cup of wine and the casual expression of a man who had merely wandered into coincidence. "I assume," Tyrion said, falling into step beside Aegon without invitation, "that you've already noticed Dragonstone's library is tragically understocked." Aegon glanced at him. "I assume," he replied, "that you talk because silence frightens you." Tyrion's grin flashed. "Silence bores me," he corrected. "Fear is for people taller than me." He sipped his wine. "Besides, you've managed to make the queen speechless. That's an accomplishment worth investigating." Aegon did not slow. "Investigate something else," he said. Tyrion followed anyway. "I've investigated most things," he said cheerfully. "It's kept me alive." They entered a small library. Stone walls, narrow windows, shelves lined with damp-warped books. Candles burned on a table scattered with scrolls and maps. The air smelled of mildew and old ink. Aegon moved to the table and studied a map of the Crownlands. Tyrion perched on a stool and watched him, eyes bright. "I should tell you," Tyrion said, "that I'm not easily impressed by old crowns and dramatic entrances." Aegon's gaze stayed on the map. "And yet," he said, "you followed me." Tyrion lifted his cup in a small salute. "Fair," he admitted. "So, let's dispense with theater. Are you truly Aegon the Conqueror?" Aegon looked at him slowly. "Do you want the truth?" he asked. "Or the most useful answer?" Tyrion's eyebrows rose. "Both," he said. Aegon's mouth curved slightly. "Then here," he said. "Truth. I woke on Dragonstone stone and found the world changed." Useful answer. "If Daenerys believes me, it changes the realm. Tyrion's grin faded a fraction. You understand the game, he said softly. Aegon's eyes sharpened. It is not a game, he said. It is a realm bleeding. Tyrion leaned back, studying him. Spoken like a king, he murmured, or someone playing at being one. He sipped his wine again, then asked, almost casually, Did you truly meet my brother? Aegon's gaze held Tyrion's now. Jaime Lannister, he said. Yes. Tyrion's smile was thin, edged with pain. And did you judge him too? He asked. Aegon's voice was even. He killed a king to save a city, he said. If his story is true, his act was more kingly than the king's. Tyrion's eyes flickered with surprise and something like reluctant respect. Most people call him Oathbreaker, he said. Most people prefer simple stories, Aegon replied. Tyrion's fingers tightened around his cup. Simple stories are useful, he said. They keep the world from noticing how complicated the truth is. Aegon returned to the map, tracing the road from King's Landing to the Stormlands with a finch. Tip. Your sister, he said. Cersei. Tyrion's expression hardened. Ah, he said softly. Her. Aegon's voice remained calm. She ordered my death, he said. Or tried. Tyrion snorted. That's practically a greeting from Cersei, he said. She orders death the way other people order breakfast. He paused, then looked at Aegon sharply. If you truly are who you claim, why didn't you kill her when you had the chance? If you walk through the Red Keep's tunnels like you own them, you could have put a knife in her ribs and saved us all a great deal of trouble. Aegon's gaze turned cold. Because I am not an assassin, he said. Because killing one queen does not heal a realm. It only creates a vacuum that uglier men rush to fill. Tyrion's mouth twisted. Uglier than Cersei? He asked, and there was bleak humor in it. Aegon's eyes did not soften. Always, he said, the realm breeds them. Tyrion leaned forward slightly. Then what do you intend? He asked. You speak of judgment. You set trials. Are you planning to crown yourself again? Aegon's gaze flicked to Tyrion. No, he said simply. Tyrion blinked. Throne. No, he repeated. That may be the first sensible thing you've said. Aegon's mouth tightened. I did not return for comfort, he said. I returned to see whether the Targaryen name should continue, whether dragons should rule again, whether Daenerys is a forge or a wildfire. Tyrion's eyes narrowed, interest sharpening. And what if she fails your trial? He asked quietly. Aegon's gaze went distant for a heartbeat, as if he saw the Iron Throne in his mind, blades glinting. Then, he said, she becomes what she fears, and the realm burns. Tyrion swallowed. He looked, suddenly, less amused. You do understand, he said softly, that she will not enjoy being evaluated. Aegon's eyes turned back to the map. No one enjoys judgment, he said. That is why it matters. Tyrion's fingers tapped the cup once, thoughtful. You know, he said, I used to think the Iron Throne was the problem, a chair of swords designed by a man who wanted the realm to remember pain. Aegon's gaze flicked to him. It was meant to remind kings, he said. It reminded everyone, Tyrion replied, especially the people who bled when kings fought over it. He sighed. Then I met Daenerys, and I thought perhaps she could change the shape of the world. Aegon's voice was quiet. Can she? He asked. Tyrion's smile returned, smaller, sadder. I want her to, he said. That's the dangerous part. Wanting makes you blind. Aegon watched him, seeing something familiar. Men who attached their hopes to rulers because hope needed somewhere to live. He had been that ruler once. He knew how intoxicating it was to be someone's answer. He turned his gaze to Tyrion. Why do you serve her? He asked. Tyrion's eyes hardened. Because my family is poison, he said. Because my sister will destroy everything if she can't own it. Because I've done things I can't do, and I need to believe they meant something. He lifted his cup, then set it down as if it were suddenly heavy. And because I have nowhere else to go. Aegon's eyes narrowed slightly. "So you are loyal," he said. "Because you are trapped." Tyrion's grin flickered. "Aren't we all?" he said. Aegon studied him for a long moment. A Lannister, clever, bitter, honest in his own twisted way, useful and dangerous. He moved a parchment aside and revealed another map beneath it, older, more detailed. Dragonstone's coastline, the narrow inlets. "Daenerys will need more than dragons," Aegon said. "She will need Westeros to accept her." Tyrion's eyes sharpened. "That's my job," he said. Aegon's gaze held his. "Then do it," he said. "And do not feed her certainty. Feed her restraint." Tyrion's smile faded into seriousness. "That may be the hardest thing I've ever tried," he admitted. Aegon's mouth curved faintly. "Good," he said. "Hard things reveal what men are." Tyrion stared at him, then let out a slow breath. "You know," he said, "if you truly are Aegon the Conqueror, it's very unfair that you've returned now, when we've just begun to understand how badly the living can ruin everything." Aegon's eyes went cold again. "Life is unfair," he said. "Kings should not pretend otherwise." Outside, the storm continued to thin. The wind still howled, but the rain had softened to mist. Somewhere high above, a dragon cried out, distant, echoing through stone. Tyrion flinched despite himself. Aegon watched him and thought grimly, "Even the clever are still human." The message arrived at dusk, borne by a man who looked as if he had run through wind and stone to deliver it. An unsullied messenger entered the painted table chamber with a scroll held as if it were a dagger. Water dripped from his cloak. His chest rose and fell with controlled exertion. He knelt before Daenerys without hesitation. Daenerys took the scroll. Her eyes flicked to the seal, black wax, stamped not with her dragon, not with any known house. She frowned. "From where?" she asked. The messenger answered in Valyrian, voice steady. "From the coast," he said. "A ship came under flag of peace. They would not enter the harbor. They sent this by boat. They said it is for the Dragon Queen and for him." The messenger's eyes flicked, briefly, toward Aegon. Daenerys' jaw tightened. She broke the seal with a thumb, unrolled the parchment. Aegon watched her face as she read. The queen's expression shifted. First confusion, then anger, then something colder. Tyrion leaned in slightly. "Bad news?" he asked. Daenerys looked up. "There is another," she said, voice tight. Aegon's eyes narrowed. "Another what?" he asked, though he already knew. "Another Targaryen," Daenerys snapped. She thrust the parchment toward Tyrion, then toward Aegon. "Another man claiming to be Aegon." Aegon took the parchment. The handwriting was bold, practiced, the common tongue shaped with a hint of foreign schooling. The words were polite, but the politeness carried threat like perfume overwrought. "To Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, and to Aegon Targaryen if he truly lives. I have landed on Westerosi soil. I have come to take what is mine and restore the realm. I will not bend to a foreign queen with foreign armies. If you are Targaryen, join me. If you are not, stay out of my way." Aegon's mouth tightened. At the bottom, the seal was a three-headed dragon. But the dragon was black on gold, not red on black. A different claim, a different story. Tyrion swore softly. "7 hells," he murmured. "Of course." Daenerys' hands clenched. "He dares," she said, voice rising. "He dares call me foreign." Yora's eyes darkened. "This could be a trick," he said. "A Lannister scheme." Tyrion shook his head, face grim. "Not a Lannister scheme," he said. "My sister's schemes are less subtle and more explosive." He swallowed. "This smells like the work of men across the sea. The Golden Company, old exiles, people who want a prince to rally behind." Missandei's voice was gentle but serious. "If he has landed," she said, "then Westerosi lords may choose him instead of you. A man is easier for them. A man with a familiar story." Daenerys' eyes flashed. "I am not a story," she said. "I am the blood of the dragon." Aegon watched her, then spoke quietly. "So is he," he said, though the words tasted like ash. "Or he claims to be." Daenerys' gaze snapped to him. "And what do you think?" she demanded. "Is he your blood? Another branch? Another lie?" Aegon's eyes remained steady. "I do not know," he said, "but I know this. He is ambitious enough to wear my name." He folded the parchment slowly, deliberately. "Ambition is common. Courage is rarer. Wisdom rarer still." Tyrion's eyes narrowed. "If he has the Golden Company," he said carefully, "he's not a minor threat. He can take castles, win banners, and he will present himself as a savior. Young, male, Targaryen enough for those who want the symbol but fear the dragons." Daenerys' voice went cold. "He will not take what is mine," she said. Aegon met her gaze. "Then your trial begins sooner than expected," he said. Daenerys' eyes narrowed. "This is not your trial," she snapped. "This is war." Aegon's voice stayed calm. "War is the most honest trial," he said. "It strips away speeches." Daenerys' breath came sharp. "I could fly to Storm's End," she said, eyes burning. "I could burn his army where it stands. I could end him in a day." Aegon's gaze turned colder. "And you would prove my fear correct," he said softly. "That you are wildfire with a crown." Daenerys' jaw clenched. For a heartbeat, the room felt like it might ignite. Not with dragonfire, but with anger. Tyrion stepped in carefully, voice measured. "Your Grace," he said. "Aegon." He hesitated, as if unsure what title to use, then continued anyway. "Burning a rival claimant might win a battle, but it will feed every lord's fear that you mean to rule by terror. The realm will unite against you out of panic." Daenerys' eyes cut to him. "So what?" she demanded. "Let him gather banners? Let him steal my name?" Aegon spoke quietly, and the quietness made the words heavier. "Let him come to Dragonstone," he said. Daenerys stared. "What?" she snapped. Aegon's eyes were sharp. "I summoned him," he said. "I challenged him. He answers now." His mouth tightened. "Good. Bring him here. Away from cheering lords. Away from hungry small folk. Bring him to the place where my house began and let him stand before me." Yora's eyes narrowed. "And if he refuses?" he asked. Aegon's gaze flicked to Yora. "Then he is a coward," he said simply. "And cowards do not deserve crowns." Daenerys' breathing slowed as she forced control back into her voice. "You want me to invite a rival into my home?" she said, suspicion sharpening. "Why?" Aegon met her gaze. "Because if you burn every rival," he said, "you will rule ashes. If you defeat a rival without burning, you prove you can be more than fear." Daenerys' eyes held his. For a moment, something like understanding flickered, resentment, but also the recognition that his trial was not meant to humiliate her. It was meant to prevent her from becoming the thing everyone would expect. Tyrion exhaled slowly. "A meeting," he murmured. "A terrible idea. Which means it might be the only one that avoids immediate catastrophe." Grey Worm's voice cut in, blunt. "If he comes," he said, "I will kill him if he tries to harm the queen." Daenerys looked at Grey Worm and nodded once. "Tach." And she turned back to Aegon. "And if he comes," she said, voice hard, "and he truly is Targaryen, what then? Do you expect me to share?" Aegon's gaze did not waver. "I expect you to choose the realm over your pride," he said. Daenerys' lips curled. "Pride?" she echoed. "You speak as if you have none." Aegon's mouth tightened. "I had enough pride to conquer Westeros," he said, "and enough sense to know pride alone cannot hold it." Lightning flashed beyond the window, illuminating the sea in cold silver. The painted table's rivers glimmered like veins. Daenerys stared at the map, then at the letter, then at Aegon. At last, she spoke, each word deliberate. "We will answer," she said. "We will offer him parley here." Tyrion's eyebrows rose. Yora looked grim. Missandei's gaze turned thoughtful, worried. Grey Worm's jaw clenched. Aegon nodded once. "Good," he said. Daenerys' eyes narrowed. "Do not mistake this," she said quietly. "I am not bending to you." Aegon's eyes were cold and steady. "Good," he replied. "Then you might become something worth bending for." The next morning, Aegon went down to the village. He did not ask permission. He simply walked out of Dragonstone's gates and down the slick path toward the clustered roofs at the cliff's base. Daenerys followed. Not immediately, not openly, but with guards at a distance and her own presence trailing like heat. Tyrion came too, muttering about wet boots. Missandei walked quietly, eyes watchful. Grey Worm's Unsullied moved like a shadow behind them, disciplined and silent. The village smelled of fish and wet rope and smoke from peat fires. The people looked up as the group approached and went still. Their faces were hard with wariness. Eyes narrowed with the learned suspicion of those who had seen too many armies come through promising protection and leaving hunger behind. They bowed to Daenerys, some quickly, some reluctantly, some not at all. Their eyes flicked to the Unsullied's foreign armor, to the Dothraki's horses, to the dragon banners. Fear sat in their posture like a second spine. Aegon watched them and felt something sharp inside his chest. These were Dragonstone's people. These were the descendants of fisherfolk who had once fed his garrison, who had prayed to strange gods and kept their heads down while dragons owned the sky. They should have been secure beneath his house's shadow. Instead, they looked like prey. A shout snapped the morning. A cluster of Dothraki had gathered near a shed where nets hung drying. They laughed and shoved each other, and one of them had grabbed a fisherman by the collar, lifting him as if he weighed nothing. The fisherman's face was pale with terror. His wife stood nearby clutching a child, mouth open in a silent scream. The Dothraki spoke in his tongue, words rough and mocking. The fisherman did not understand, but he understood the tone. Aegon moved before anyone else did. He strode across the mud and stopped within arm's length of the Dothraki, looking up at the taller man without flinching. The Dothraki turned, surprised, grin widening at the sight of a smaller man stepping into his space. The Dothraki said something, laughing. He shook the fisherman once like a sack. Aegon lifted a hand, palm outward, not pleading, commanding. "Put him down," Aegon said in the common tongue, voice low. The Dothraki did not understand, but the tone cut through laughter. He hesitated, eyes narrowing, then laughed again and jerked the fisherman harder. Aegon's voice turned colder. "Now!" Daenerys' voice rang out from behind, sharp with authority. She spoke in Dothraki, and the sound of her words made the Dothraki stiffen. The warrior's grin faltered. He glanced at her, recognition flaring. "Queen. Khaleesi." He let the fisherman drop. The fisherman stumbled, coughing, clutching his throat. His wife rushed to him, sobbing. The child stared with wide, frightened eyes at the foreign riders and the queen's pale hair. The Dothraki's face twisted into sullen irritation. He muttered something, likely an insult, and spat into the mud. Aegon did not look away. He stared at the Dothraki until the taller man's gaze dropped. Not in respect but in the discomfort of being held under a stare that did not blink. Daenerys approached, cloak dragging through mud. Her face was hard, but her eyes burned with something more complicated than anger. "What are you doing?" she demanded quietly when she reached Aegon's side. Aegon did not turn to her. He watched the fisherman's family, watched how they clung to each other as if expecting another blow. "Showing you your conquest," he said softly. Daenerys' jaw tightened. "They are my people," she said sharply. "I will not let the Dothraki." "And yet," Aegon interrupted, turning his head slightly now. "They were afraid to speak until I stepped between them." His eyes narrowed. "They fear your army more than they trust your protection." Daenerys' nostrils flared. "They don't know me," she snapped. Aegon's gaze returned to the villagers. "Then learn," he said. "Speak to them. Feed them. Pay for what your men take. Punish those who harm them. Not because you fear their rebellion," his eyes sharpened, "but because a queen who breaks chains cannot ignore small cruelties committed in her name." Daenerys' face tightened. and for a heartbeat Aegon saw pride bristle again. Then she looked at the fisherman's bruised throat, at the child's wide eyes, and something shifted. She turned sharply toward the Dothraki leader. She spoke in Dothraki again, her voice cutting. The Dothraki's posture stiffened. He muttered, then bowed his head reluctantly. Daenerys' gaze swept over the gathered riders. "No one takes from these people," she said in the common tongue now, loud enough for villagers to hear. "No one harms them. If you do, you answer to me." The villagers stared, uncertain. They had heard promises before. Aegon watched Daenerys as she said it. The words were good. The question was whether she would enforce them when it cost her loyalty, when it demanded she punish her own men, when it required her to be more than a symbol. The fisherman, still shaking, looked up at Daenerys. His eyes were wary, but there was a glimmer there too, hope, cautious as a candle in wind. Daenerys stepped closer to him. "What is your name?" she asked. The man swallowed, voice hoarse. "Harl," he rasped. Aegon's eyes flicked. Harl, the same fisherman who had ferried him once. The man did not recognize him now beneath grime and years and impossible resurrection. Daenerys nodded. "Harl," she said, "you will be paid for any damage. If any of my men trouble you, you come to the castle and you tell Grey Worm." She gestured to the Unsullied commander, who stood rigid and watchful. "He will hear you." Harl stared as if unsure whether he dared believe a queen speaking directly to him. His wife clutched their child tighter. Missandei stepped forward, her voice gentle. "We will bring grain," she said softly. "And medicine." The villagers murmured. Some bowed more deeply. Some still watched with suspicion. Daenerys straightened. Her eyes flicked to Aegon. There was irritation there, yes, but also something else, a reluctant acknowledgement. "You wanted loyalty," she said quietly. "Is this your trial?" Aegon's mouth tightened. "This is the beginning of it," he replied. Daenerys' voice was low. "You enjoy humiliating me," she said. Aegon's gaze stayed on the villagers. "No," he said. "I enjoy preventing you from becoming your enemy's prophecy." Daenerys flinched as if he had touched a bruise. They stood in the mud as the villagers slowly returned to their work, casting backward glances like frightened birds. The Dothraki withdrew, grumbling. The Unsullied remained still as stone. Aegon felt the weight of the moment settle. A small cruelty stopped. A small promise made. A seed planted. Small things mattered. Small things became legends. He glanced at Daenerys. "Do it again," he said quietly. "Without me." Daenerys' eyes narrowed. "I will," she said, and there was steel in it. Aegon nodded once. Good, he thought. Let her prove it. By the time they returned to the castle, the sea had darkened again, not with storm but with the heavy, bruised light of late afternoon. Clouds pressed low. The wind smelled of salt and something else. Smoke from distant ships. Horns sounded from the battlements. Grey Worm moved first, snapping orders. Unsullied shifted into formation with the smoothness of a blade leaving a sheath. Dothraki riders gathered, restless. Torches were lit along the walls even though the sun had not yet fully fallen. Aegon climbed to the sea-facing terrace with Daenerys, Tyrion, Missandei, and Grey Worm at their heels. Yora came too, eyes narrowed, hand near his sword. Melisandre remained behind, either unwilling to stand in the open wind or already deep in her own prophecies. From the cliff, they saw it. A small boat approaching Dragonstone's docks, riding the chop with practiced confidence. Behind it, farther out, lingered larger ships, dark hulls, disciplined formation. Not Daenerys' fleet, not fishermen, not pirates. Aegon's eyes narrowed. The ships held a kind of military precision. Men who knew how to move as an army even on water. The boat struck the dock with a dull thud. Men jumped out, armed, cloaked, faces hard. Their bearing was not that of courtiers or knights seeking favor. These were soldiers. Golden Company, Aegon thought grimly. A tall man stepped forward at their head. His hair was dark with gray at the temples. His face was weathered, jaw tight as if he had spent years clenching it against grief. His eyes were a cold, hard blue. He wore no sigil openly, but something in him carried old nobility, ruined and sharpened into purpose. He held a letter in one hand, sea damp, sealed with black-on-gold wax. A three-headed dragon stamped into it, not Daenerys red and black, not Aegon's remembered steel, something crafted to look ancient and rightful. He walked with deliberate care along the pier until he stood within speaking distance of Daenerys and the men around her. Unsullied spears aimed toward him. The Golden Company soldiers behind him stood ready, hands near weapons. The man bowed, not deeply, not humbly, but formally. The bow of a man who respected crowns because they were useful, not because they were holy. "I am Jon Connington," he said, voice carrying over the slap of waves. "Hand of King Aegon Targaryen." Daenerys' face hardened instantly. "There is only one Aegon Targaryen here," she said coldly, eyes flicking toward Aegon beside her. Jon Connington's gaze slid to Aegon and stopped. For a heartbeat, something flickered in his expression. Shock, disbelief, a crack in his soldier's control. His eyes narrowed, searching Aegon's face as if trying to match it to a memory from books, from tapestries, from stories whispered in exile. Then his jaw tightened and the crack sealed. "My king," Connington said carefully, Sen's words. He hoped parley might prevent needless blood. Tyrion let out a quiet breath, almost a laugh without humor. "We all hope," he muttered. Daenerys did not take her eyes off Connington. "Your king called me foreign," she said. "He threatened me." Connington's voice stayed controlled. "He spoke truth as he sees it," he said. "He has Westerosi blood, Westerosi men, Westerosi purpose." His eyes flicked briefly to the Unsullied spears, to the Dothraki riders. "Westerosi fear what they do not recognize." Daenerys' voice sharpened. "And what do they recognize?" she demanded. "A man? Pretty story? A boy trained to smile?" Connington's face did not change, but there was a flicker of irritation. "They recognize a king," he said. "One who intends to restore order." Aegon stepped forward slightly. The movement drew every gaze. Daenerys' eyes cut to him. Grey Worm's spear shifted. Tyrion stiffened. Connington's eyes narrowed. Aegon's voice was calm, carrying the weight of stone. "Your king wears my name," he said. "He says he is Aegon Targaryen. I have invited him here." Connington's gaze sharpened. "He will come," he said slowly, "if it serves the realm." Aegon's mouth tightened. "It serves his pride," he said. "And mine." He stepped closer to the dock's edge, looking down at Connington as if looking down from a throne. "Tell him this. Dragonstone is where my house began. If he is truly of my blood, he will not fear standing in it." Connington's jaw worked. For a heartbeat, Aegon saw the man's loyalty strain, caught between duty and the unsettling presence of the founder made flesh. Connington lifted the letter slightly. "Then take this," he said, and held it out. Grey Worm moved to intercept, spear still angled. Daenerys lifted a hand. "No," she said. "I will take it." She stepped forward and took the sealed letter from Connington's hand without flinching. For a heartbeat, their fingers brushed. Queen to envoy, fire to steel. Daenerys looked at the seal, then broke it with a decisive snap. She read quickly, face tightening with each line. Aegon watched her eyes move. He watched the way her jaw clenched, the way her pride flared, the way her control tightened around her anger like a fist. When she finished, she looked up at Connington. "He proposes an alliance," she said coldly. "A marriage. He proposes I bend to him as his queen." Tyrion made a strangled sound. "Oh, that's charming," he muttered. "Threaten her, insult her, then ask for her hand. A bold strategy." Connington's face remained hard. "He proposes unity," he said. "One dragon banner, not two." Daenerys' laugh was sharp. "He proposes I become decoration," she said. Connington's eyes flicked briefly to Aegon. He proposes what kings have always proposed, he said. Power joined. Aegon's voice was quiet, deadly. Tell your king, he said, that I will not be used as blessing for his courtship. He leaned slightly forward, eyes like cold flame. If he wants a crown, he comes here and earns it. If he wants a queen, he learns that queens are not prizes. Connington's jaw tightened. He will not appreciate being spoken to like a boy, he said. Aegon's smile was thin. Then he should stop acting like one, he replied. Daenerys stared at Aegon, eyes flaring with something like astonishment. Then, unexpectedly, a flicker of grim satisfaction. She turned back to Connington. Tell him, she said, voice ringing over the waves, that I will not marry a stranger who calls himself king. Tell him if he wants to speak, he comes to Dragonstone and kneels, or he comes and dies. The Unsullied did not move, but the air tightened as if the words themselves had drawn blood. Connington's eyes hardened. He bowed again, slower this time, and his gaze cut once more to Aegon. Sharp, wary, unsettled. I will tell him, he said. He turned and walked back toward the boat. The Golden Company soldiers followed, disciplined and silent. The boat shoved off. Waves slapped the pier's stone pillars. The larger ships offshore held position, waiting like wolves in deep water. Daenerys stood at the pier's edge, letter crumpling slightly in her fist. The wind tugged at her hair. Her face was fierce, but Aegon could see the tension underneath. Anger, yes, but also the strain of being challenged by someone wearing her name. Aegon watched the retreating boat with cold focus. Somewhere out there was a boy or a man who thought wearing the name Aegon could make him a king. Aegon Targaryen felt judgment settle into him like a blade sliding into place. Now, he said softly, to Daenerys, to the sea, to the dark ships waiting beyond the waves. We see whether your rival is blood or bait. And above Dragonstone, unseen behind cloud, a dragon cried out, long and low, like the sky itself had begun to choose sides.